Welcome into day 2 of state tournament previews here on PA Power Wrestling, brought to you by Rock Finn. And we got not only one Jeff and one Jeff U, right? But we got a second one because we wanted to make sure that we could double up the firepower here today to talk about Double A. So, it's
After
hard to say.
last night, I needed like a clone, like a double, a stunt double here.
That's right. And I'm even because sometimes I'll throw it, say, "Hey Jeff, what are your thoughts?" I don't even know how to kind of go about this now because you guys are both Jeff.
It's gonna be tough, but we're gonna figure it out.
Jeff Uvino, kind enough to join us. Thanks for hopping on with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Always glad to talk wrestling. I'm excited. Well, it's almost time. It's almost time.
That's right. It's gonna be a lot of fun here in Hershey. Jeff Uvino covering for the Erie Times up in the Northwest. So we got a lot to talk about, guys, here on the Power Hour today as we get set for Hershey. There's a lot of folks getting ready to head out there tomorrow. And let's dive right in, Jeff and Jeff, here at 107 pounds. Your top 4 seeds, and first I want to mention, I apologize if I do mispronounce any names. Not familiar with all of them quite yet, so I do apologize if any are mispronounced. But at
You
the
better
top,
get that. You better get ready for Hershey because you're gonna
that's
be
what
up
I'm
there
saying.
on
This is
the
why
headset.
this is good because I get the way to say them a few times, and then if somebody's like, "Hey, that's wrong," maybe they'll call me out before I actually have to be on the radio for it. So it works out great.
Yeah, well, I'm the
Um,
wrong. As well as I do. I'm the wrong person to ask about pronunciations. I'm
that's
surprised I
right.
can get my own name right. So
Yeah, I second that. Stop pronouncing my own name.
Luckily, we have enough people that listen in now that I'm sure they'll quick to correct us, when we make those mistakes. But let's jump into 107, and the Southeast champ is your number 1 seed, Braden Lotier of Bishop McDevitt. Chase Karenbauer of Grove City, the number 1 from the Northwest. He's your number 2. Nathan Schumann of Honesdale, the Northeast champ, number 3. And Keegan Bassett, the Southwest champ from Bishop McCourt, is number 4.
I like this because you have a lot of separation here, right? Obviously, Keegan Bassett, Chase Karenbauer are the 2 leading guys here. Those guys have wrestled in multiple times head-to-head in the last couple years. In fact, they wrestled on our card, True Power, with Karenbauer winning that. They wrestled at the Super 32 this year, and Karenbauer has been the one who's gotten the advantage the last couple of times. But this weight has a lot of depth between young and I would say veteran talent, right? Because you have a couple of really solid freshmen, but you also have guys like Dakota Santa Maria who've been there before. He's placed at the state tournament. Javion Chambers, Greg, who you and I have seen a lot this year. Van Ward from Union City. Jeff, he's a guy who I feel like has been around forever. I like this weight, and I like the way the bracket sets up because you get all the guys, I think, sort of separated. You don't see one of those quarterfinals where it's like a top 5 matchup right away.
Yeah, and Chase Karenbauer, he's District 10's best or most likely state championship threat. I mean, maybe that goes without saying, but it is. I do agree that I like how the bracket worked out to where those semifinals will be what the semifinals should be. Karenbauer's 44-0 to no one's surprise. No one has touched him locally to no one's surprise, and it's maybe kind of hard to gauge where he's at currently just because he's been so dominant. I mean, he teched his way through regionals to no surprise. And, we're really going to see, I guess this is maybe where it gets real for him. But in terms of, okay, who's going to break this streak from District 10 without a state champion? No one's won it since 2021 when Louis Gill won as a freshman for Victory. No one has won states from District 10 since then. This looks like our best hope right off the bat here.
I like what you said about being able to gauge him because the last time he was really challenged was Powerade. Outside of that, I mean, Fred Bell, districts, regional section, all of it. He just cruised through, right? But he had such a good Powerade where he was able to win it in really good fashion, beating Justin Farnsworth, beating JoJo Burke in the finals in a crazy match. I just feel like December's a long time ago. So I'm kind of anxious to see him up against like a Dakota Santa Maria or a Cameron Smith in that quarterfinal matchup, and then even maybe a Carter Chunko, who's had some really good results this year, and Nathan Schumann, who I feel like from Honesdale has been a little bit more under the radar. But yeah, I like what you said about him, just kind of the gauge level of where he's at. He just hasn't been tested.
And it's like we've been waiting for this weekend to see it.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to go through the Southwest region, in my opinion, to get to the not only get to the final but win it, right? Because Santa Maria is going to be a tough challenge in the quarters. And I got to be honest, the one opening round matchup in a round of 16, you mentioned Carter Chunko, Javion Chambers. I think that is the best matchup in the round of 16 here at 107 pounds, because I truly think the winner of that match has the ability to get to the semifinals.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the rankings, the updated, which we haven't published our AA rankings just yet. I'm working on it. I'm about after the show, which if the show goes to midnight, we're in trouble. But I'm hoping the show does not go that long, and I can get the rankings updated and get them out on Rockfin. But the updated rankings are going to show that Chunko is 5, Chambers is 6. Jeff, what do you make of Van Ward? Because he's another one. Union City doesn't wrestle necessarily the toughest of schedule. I have another hard time gauging him and where he's at. Right now, I have him sitting at number 7 in the state, mainly because of the fact that he's a junior and a regional qualifier. But I don't know what to expect from him. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, he's a wild card. First thing I was going to say is that he's a junior, so he's got a little strength advantage. Another thing, he wrestled up at 14 for a lot of their season. They had a dual meet heavy schedule, and they had another 107. So Van wrestled up at 14 a lot of the year. I talked to him last week about how that maybe helped him get used to a little more horsepower that he saw up there. But, as a guy who, was clearly the second best wrestler in, what I would consider maybe a weak region at this weight, I think it is a wild card, and maybe tough to gauge. Unlike Karen Bauer is tough to gauge because he's been so dominant. Ward is tough to gauge because we maybe haven't seen him in some of these matches, like the quality of opponents that he's going to see in Hershey. So give him a notch up because he's a junior, give him a notch up because he wrestled 14 a bunch this year. But a lot of guys at 107 wrestled a lot of matches at 14. So 7, I guess that a medal for him would certainly be a great accomplishment, and would probably be one of Erie County's only medals this year. But it's certainly not out of the question at a weight like this, where, as you guys know, anything can really happen.
Yeah, I mean, it really is unpredictable. I mean, I look at this weight class because it's so young and because a lot of these guys have not seen each other head to head. It's really hard to gauge where these guys are going to fall. You look at like a Darius Simmons from Burgettstown. Greg, you and I have talked about him for a long time, and he's a senior at this weight. He found a way to qualify. I think he has a favorable matchup with Rowan Humphrey there, but he's going to run right into Karen Bauer. You look at some of these other guys, and Van Ward's got Xander Wilson in the first round from Williamson, who, by the way, entered the regional tournament undefeated. His only loss was in the regional tournament. He comes in 42-1. Williamson doesn't wrestle a ton of tough guys, but you just don't know. I think the bet, if you're going to pick the lock or the safe bet here, is Brandon Latier going to the semifinals against Keegan Bassett, right? I would also say Carter Chunko, to a certain extent, is probably the favorite in that quadrant on the bottom half. And then Chase Karenbauer, obviously. The reason I say Chunko is, I mean, he's been really good for a really long time. He knows how to win. He's been winning at a high level for a long time. He did lose in the finals to Latier. It was I think it was 1 point match. I could be wrong. 13-11. I'm sorry. It was 13-11. And that's with the number 3 guy, or excuse me, the number 4 guy in the state. So I just kind of favor Chunko in that. I like Chambers, Greg, but I don't know. What are your thoughts, Greg? What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends what Chambers shows up, right? Because he lost in the quarterfinals to Garrett Wyant of Chestnut Ridge, a solid wrestler and a guy who has medal potential, but then he comes back, wrestles through the consolations, and then he texts Wyant in the third and fourth place match.
Makes no sense.
So which Chambers is going to wrestle there?
Right. I agree.
So,
I mean, it's happened so many times where and we talked about last night where guys have lost and they've lost big, and then they come back and it's like a switch is flipped, and all of a sudden
Right.
they turn on. Jeff, have you seen a lot of that in your coverage this year? Is that guys like, and I know in the Northwest especially, there was a lot of guys that were losing and then they just turned it around within a matter of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I've come to expect inconsistent results in Pennsylvania, I guess. I'm from New York
Whoa,
State, where
whoa, whoa. Hey,
if
I'm
you
sorry we
go
don't
to the
have
state
six.
tournament,
How many state divisions do you have in New York? Six?
two,
Okay, all right,
two.
all right, all right. Sorry.
But in New York, if you go to the state tournament one year, it's kind of a given that you're going to go back the next.
Okay.
And there's not a lot of the number of wrestlers at that quality just isn't as many as here. And so I've come to expect mixed results. I've come to expect seeing kids get beat who I would never expect to lose matches. And so I guess that's just something that has become kind of expected to me
Yeah.
is seeing these inconsistent results. And, it depends on weight. I mean, in the Northwest, we're really deep at 27 and 33 this year. And, some of those guys, you're so good that you're rarely going to see a loss, but it's also a reflection of the depth below
Yeah.
them. So I guess I don't have a great answer to your question because almost nothing surprises me here.
To go with picks, Jeff and Jeff, I'm going with low tier to get to the semis with Bassett, but I do like Keegan Bassett to make the final. I'm going with Chambers to make it to the semis. I think he puts it together and gets the big win over Chunko in round of 16 against Karen Bauer. But I do like Karen Bauer to not only make the finals, but win the 107-pound bracket.
I would agree with you, and I think you could flip a coin for Karen Bauer and Bassett. I mean, probably a 1 point match. Maybe a tiebreaker match. Those guys, I mean, they know each other so well. They've wrestled each other for so many years in so many styles: freestyle, Greco, folk style. Right? They know each other so well. And especially on the big stage, I could see it being a tiebreaker match.
It'll be a fun start to the finals if we get Bassett and
Yeah,
Karen Bauer, that's for sure.
for sure.
114 pounds. The Northeast champ Bryce Piguat of
Pequeno.
North
Pequeno.
Pequeno. Thank you. That was a tough one for sure. Pequeno of North Penn Liberty is the top. Southeast champ Freddie Bachman of Faith Christian at number 2. Southwest champ Max Dingus of Penns Valley, number 3. And Northwest champ Ian Stearns of Grove City, number 4.
So right out of the gate, Ian Stearns, Jeff. I mean, he's been on fire this year, and I think he put it together, obviously, in the regional tournament there. What do you like about him, and do you see kind of like the Chase Karenbauer rubbing off on him a little bit?
Yeah. Well, the thing about Stearns, he's got a pretty good practice partner, so that
Right.
definitely helps. And him and Angelo Lamonti from Reynolds have had some really legendary battles the last 3 weeks. Angelo got him the first week at sections at the District 10 section tournament a couple weeks ago. Angelo got him. I think it was 4-2, and then the last couple weeks, Stearns has beaten him on late takedowns. At regionals, that was is about as late as it can go. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the video of that, but it was kind of almost a recreation of the district final. Stearns gets a takedown late in the district final to win it. That we get the rematch at regionals, Stearns versus Lamonte. It's a similar situation. Lamonte's up late, and Stearns he's goes for I don't know if it was a bundle or what. My mind it escapes my mind, but it goes for a throw as time expires and gets it to win that match 6-4 and kind of steal that fourth seed from Lamonti. But Angelo last year he was returning region champ. It's 7 up to 14 now, and Stearns kind of came in and stole his thunder the last couple weeks. If those two wrestle again, I expect another great battle, but I guess the biggest thing that Stearns has showed me the last couple of weeks is he finishes matches.
Yeah.
He did it at districts, like I said, and he did it again at regionals. Just coming after Lamonti in the last moments of those matches, and was rewarded for it. So a kid who's wrestling that freely, who's wrestling wide open like that, you never know what can happen if he hits another throw like he did at the end of that regional final. If he opens up, a freshman who maybe these guys haven't seen as much of. Looking at his spot in the bracket, right after his pigtail, he'll if he wins that, he'll have either Mull from Chestnut Ridge, a
Mhm.
senior, or Wolford from Northern Lebanon, a junior, right? A little younger than those guys, giving them a little different look. But just a lot of energy from Stearns, and I would think it would be accurate to say that some Karen Bauer rubbing off on him.
I look at this weight and it intrigues me so much because you have such when you look at our top incoming freshman report, Freddie Bachman was our top incoming freshman, but Max Dingus, Eli Herring, C.J. Keynes, and Ian Stearns were all right up on there. Tyden Schumann, Chase Wernsberger as well. They were all on that list, right? This is such a good weight because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 freshmen, plus you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 returning state medalists, right? Wolford and Mull being the two big ones there, finishing fourth, and Tommy Boyce finishing third. I just love this weight because I think most people look at this and they say, okay, it's Freddie Bachman being one of the nationally, nationally one of the best wrestlers in the state of Pennsylvania, a Super 32 champion, a world medalist in freestyle. But he went the distance with Sam Wolford. He's been letting guys get a little bit too close, I think. He wrestled to a 2-1 tiebreaker win over Sam Wolford in the regional finals. But in the semifinals, he made your decision Jordan Minetti, who is a returning state medalist himself. So there's so much depth here between the freshman and the returning state medalist. In fact, you mentioned it, the matchup of this may be actually the best matchup, the first round matchup of the whole tournament, not just the bracket, is Sam Wolford and Easton Mall. This one is going to be an absolute war. These guys are very, very familiar with each other. Wolford beat him 7-5 at the Midwinter Mayhem. But Max Dingus from Penns Valley had a huge regional tournament, ends up getting the championship title over guys that he had lost to previously in Eli Herring and Easton Mall. So I just love this weight class, and there's so many landmines here. I really just don't know what to expect. And I will say, I think Angelo Lamonte is in a decent spot. I think that's a favorable matchup with Chase Wernsberger, a freshman. Obviously, you run into Bachman, but winning that and getting to the quarterfinals sets you up nicely to potentially make the top 8.
Southwest is really deep here in this weight class. You mentioned Max Dingus, who had a great tournament, right? He beats Easton Mall as well as Eli Herring. Preston Bubash of Elizabeth Forward, the WPL champ, he wrestled very tough, had close matches with both Herring and Mull. Tough part for him, he feeds right into Freddie Bachman. But when you talk about a guy like Bruce Anderchak of Quaker Valley as the number 7 wrestler out of the Southwest, that tells you how deep it is.
And he defaulted. He. It's almost like he just defaulted just to make it to Hershey, right? He made it as far as he had to, and then injury default 1 second, and then came back. So I mean, it sounds like he's hurt. At least that's what I heard. Is that he's a little banged up.
Yeah, I would definitely say that for sure. But I mean, I think you just have the depth there from the Southwest. Your point, I mean, Wolford Mall is going to be fantastic. I think Eli Herring, Jordan Mignette's going to be a good matchup in the round of 16. I just think throughout each round, you're continuing to have great matches. Yeah, Freddie Bachman may be the story and the guy at 114, the favorite going in, but there is a lot of depth here at this weight class.
Well, and we didn't even mention really C.J. Keynes from Hanover. He was a Northeast region runner-up to Pequeno, but Keynes is somebody who made some serious headlines before the season when he medaled at the Super 32. In fact, he knocked off the number 1 ranked guy in the nation in doing so. I maybe he's taken some losses this year that are maybe a little uncharacteristic for his young career. He lost to Freddie Bachman. He lost to Pequeno in then the regional finals. But he's somebody that I could very well see in the semifinals. I think if him and Dingus make it both out, that's going to be a heck of a quarterfinal matchup between two of the best freshmen in the state. But Tommy Boyce, as I mentioned, he's 3rd in the state, right, a season ago. He's sitting right there in the pigtails. there's going to just be fireworks everywhere. I like this one. Preston Bubash, him and Titan Schumann, I think is going to be a good one. There's just a lot of really good matches. Bo Avini has Caleb Hummel. Hummel's a guy who's a 2-time state qualifier committed to Bloomsburg. I think I was surprised, Jeff, that Avini was able to qualify. That was kind of, I mean, it was a little bit more wide open after the first couple guys.
Yeah, there was a big drop off in District 10 after Stearns and Lamonti. A couple guys, couple contenders withdrew ahead of regionals, and that allowed a couple District 9 guys to get in. Like you said, Avini, good experience for him going as a freshman there, and then Capello from Ridgeway, who's been around a bit now as a sophomore, or excuse me, as a junior
Yeah.
at 114. There was that drop off. It was Stearns and Lamonte all year. Although I guess it wasn't Lamonte all year because he had a shoulder
Yeah,
injury.
he
He
was
was out for a while.
banged up.
I believe it was a shoulder. He's got that. Wrapped up since he's been back, but he didn't get back till about mid-January. Lamonte did. So, certainly not an ideal situation, missing half the season there for him. But he's been good. He's looked like himself. But there was a kind of a significant drop off after those top two in the Northwest region, and Avini seized it, and we'll see if he can make some noise. Same with Capello, first time state qualifier,
Yep.
and great for Ridgeway, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure when their last state qualifier was, but super low numbers for them in recent years. Same with Johnsonburg right next door.
Yeah.
So great for Ridgeway to get one in.
So Jeff, who you got for picks?
Jeff Upson or Jeff?
Yeah, you're gonna have to identify your Jeff there.
That's right. That's true. You guys are correct. Let's go
Can't say J
Uvino
who.
this time.
Yeah, I mean it's tough to bet against Freddie, right? He's kind of just one of those names that you see in the bracket and you go, well, we kind of know it's going to happen at 14, but so yeah, tough to bet against Freddie.
Who's your other semifinalists?
Man, I mean, Dingus is super impressive to me. I think he's great. I mean, I'm not, I guess, I'm not as familiar with the other side of the bracket. Mole, I guess, that Easton Mole is a senior. That's a name that stands out to me. I know he's got some high level experience and tough, and as far as that top quadrant, just how the Southwest Regional shook out, right? With Herring goes down in the final, and excuse me, what's his name, goes down in the semis. It's tough to, or Mole, yeah, who I was just talking about, goes down in the semis. That's the thing about seeding the bracket, like not seeding the brackets and doing it based on how the regionals play out. It can kind
Do
of
they
make
seed it in New York?
Yeah, they seed
They
it.
seed it. They don't do it based off of like your regional finish. Like they actually somebody seeds it.
No, they seed the top eight.
That's amazing.
They seed the top eight. Well, at least I mean, it's changing all the time. They also expanded from 16 to 22 recently.
Okay.
But when I graduated from high school 8 years ago, they seeded the top eight, and then everyone else kind of goes where they lie. So that's a surprise to me that that's not the case here.
I love it because when people come here and they're like, for being the best wrestling state in the union, you guys really screw up some things. And yeah, seeding is one of those things.
You think if the two best kids are in the same region, we could just override and say, yeah, they should be on opposite sides of the bracket. But I guess that'd be too much to ask.
Greg, what do you like here? You've seen a lot of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think Eli Herring I think he's gonna a little bit of a wake up call, right? Losing in the finals, so I like him to make it to the semis. Obviously, I think the Wolford Mull winner gets to the semi. I'm going with Sam Wolford there, but I think it's truly a toss up match. And I also think it could be a toss up between Wolford and Herring. To be honest, I mean, I think it's going to be a really close match. The Bishop McCourt guys have really turned it on here over the last, couple of weeks. So I'm going to go with Herring there to make it to the final. Dingus, I'd like him to get to the semi against Bachman, but I like Bachman to win it.
I like you going out on a limb here. You did that last night too. Appreciate you doing that because it's nice to see. You're right. Like Sam Wolford and Easton Mall, that was a 7-5 match the last time around, and that was just a war. And Sam Wolford ended up losing to Don Morrison, returning state champion in AAA in the finals there. But I will tell you this: I mean, he looked really, really good against Freddie Bachman. He looked really good against Tommy Boyce in the semifinals. So I feel like he's getting things together at the right time. So I do have him making it to the finals. I have Wolford in the semifinals, beating Mull and then beating Stearns. And I have Eli Herring beating Magnetti and then Pequeno to be in the semifinals on that top half. I have Dingus making it out, beating Tommy Boyce and CJ Keynes there. And I have Dingus beating Keynes and Bachman making it to the finals and Bachman winning it. Safe bet, I guess you could say. But that could shape out completely different, right? I mean, Eli Herring could make it to the state finals. Easton Mull could make it. I mean, there's so many different possibilities here, and the margin of error I think is so small that Freddie Bachman has been, no one's beat him, and he's the number one guy in the state and the nation for a reason. So you kind of expect him to be that guy.
Yeah, Jeff, I think I mentioned to you before we got started today, like, I don't want to go with the same picks as everybody all the time. Like, there's going to be some it's no-brainers that you have to, but, sometimes you got to make sure that we keep things interesting, right? So I'll never forget the time, Jeff, whenever it was me, you, and Dyson Gold were riding up to the state tournament together. And I was like, hey, Jared Kessler is going to make some noise here. He's going to pull some. And you were like, oh my God, what are you talking about? I'll never forget.
I never would have
Dyson
said that because
dying
Jared Kessler.
in the background.
You're lying. You're lying because I never would have said Jared Kessler as a freshman won the Surge tournament. I've been on the Jared Kessler bandwagon since before he stepped on the mat in high school. So don't give me that.
Who was it then?
It wasn't Jared Kessler. I don't know who it was, but it wasn't Jared Kessler. I'll tell you that.
I will have to call Dyson in because I know Dyson was dying in the background, laughing at the picks, and it ended up coming true. So, but yeah, that was a great time. 121 Southeast champ Will Dieter of Trinity is your top seed. Northeast champ Brock Rothermel of Lime Mountain, your number 2. Southwest champ Tanner Gano of Bald Eagle area, number 3, and Northwest champ Elijah Scriven of Hickory, your number 4.
I mean, this bracket got seriously blown up and disconfigured when two guys got beat that were, one's a state champion, one's a state runner-up, and that's Dom Deputy losing to Tanner Gano in the regional finals, and Gage Botero losing in the finals to Will Detter. And look, these guys, I think those 4 guys, Rothermel, Detter, Deputy, and Botero, and Tanner Gano as well, you throw them all in a hat and shake them around, and I think you're going to get different results every single time. But Will Detter has been wrestling very, very well since, basically since the summer when he won a Fargo national title. Gage Botero, interesting thing here because Gage Botero is a state champion who's committed to Michigan. He and Brock Rothermel wrestled in the Fargo National Finals with Botero winning this one. There is so much talent here. The amount of Division I recruits. Detter's a Northwestern recruit. Deputy is NC State. You have Botero going to Michigan. Rothermel is going to be one of those guys that's signing to a Division I school. There's just so much top end talent here. I don't know what to expect here, but I just definitely think when you look at the bracket, there's going to be a lot of really good matches. Botero, Gano in the quarterfinals, a Carter Beck, Brock Rothermel match potentially as well, and of course Dom Deputy and Will Detter, which is a rematch from the Midwinter Mayhem finals right away in the quarterfinals. I love this weight class. Jeff, the Northwest, Scriven has been, at the beginning of the year, I feel like he was a little inconsistent, but then I since then, he's really put together beating a very, very tough Carter Beck in multiple weeks. I'll tell you what, I've been impressed with Scriven. When he's on, he can beat anybody, but he has a tendency to sometimes, I don't know if it's in his head or what, but sometimes he gets behind and he doesn't look himself.
Yeah, Scriven has been really impressive the last few weeks against Beck. I mean, that was kind of one of our premier matchups in District 10, and then again in the Northwest region last week. I guess the word that I'd use to describe how Scrivens wrestled against Beck is he's just handled him.
Yeah.
He's handled him, which is not an easy thing to do against Carter Beck, who's a two-time state medalist, medaled as a freshman, didn't medal as a sophomore. I talked to Carter yesterday. He said he's looking to be back in that top four this year, or to reach the top four this year. But Elijah Scriven has just kind of handled him the last few weeks. Scriven's had an answer to everything that Beck's thrown at him on his feet. He's been super good on the mat. And we had some real studs at 21 in District 10 this year. You'll see Davion Edmond there. He's the third seed out of the Northwest region, a freshman from Cathedral Prep. And Edmond actually beat Rocky Cowell from Northeast in the Concy semis. They're kind of a surprise. Cowell wrestled at states last year. He looked really good this year, especially down the stretch. But another guy who Scriven just kind of handled, right?
And Cal beat him earlier at the Midwinter Mayhem this year, if you remember.
They
that.
split,
They
yes,
split.
yep.
Yeah,
Cal
that
beat
was
him
a huge
maybe,
upset.
yeah, and because Rocky's good. Rocky's really good. Whether it was Cowell or whether it was Beck or whether it was Edmond, they've all just kind of been a step behind Scriven. And this placement in the bracket here is very favorable for Scriven, in my opinion. To maybe help set him up to get on that podium.
Yeah, I agree with you. When you look at the where he's at, now obviously you have Telly Babadas there from Montoursville as well. I really like him. He's a returning two-time state qualifier, but I do like where he's at in the bracket, and I think he makes it to the semifinals, but the question is he's going to be able to get past a Dom Deputy or a Will Detter or and I wouldn't look past Gage Swank either. Swank's a guy who was a state medalist 2 years ago, was injured all of last season. He actually got injured at our event True Power in September, and this year he's been trying to get back into the mix. Greg, we've talked about the WPIAA a whole lot this season. I was not expecting Tucker Maine to have the regional weekend that he had, to avenge a couple tech falls to Austin Kasanovic to come back and beat him. That was very impressive to me, and I did not have that on my bingo card.
And I tell you, going into the season, I thought this was the Tucker Maine we'd be seeing all season long. I think he's had a bit of a subpar season, I think you could say, with that 38-15 record. He's been you could probably consider him like above average, right? But he turned it on at the right moment, right? He had a great Southwest Regional tournament. He beat Jack Sophy's a Bishop McCourt in the round of 16 to get to the quarterfinals in the region. Ends up losing to him in the third and fourth place match, but it was a tight one. But avenging that loss to Kasanovic, I mean, he just tore apart the consolations. Tucker Maine did, and
yeah,
to me, it's like, here's the question now: is I thought Kasanovic was probably the cream of the crop from the WPIAL and was probably one of those like guys that might be able to get a medal in the 6, 7, 8 range this
Agreed.
season. Where the other WPIAL guys, I'm like, they're a step below. Now is Kasanovic down to their level, or is it Tucker Maine, Carter Thomas, who had a good weekend, Dylan Bateman, a Derry who turned it on and did wrestled well? Are these guys kind of taking that step up, where all four of these guys are now going to be in contention? So, that's the answer we're going to find out here at the state tournament. But I think there's a pretty clear cut as far as like the top 4 or 5, like you mentioned, throw them in a bag. You might get different results each week, but the question is, who gets those 6, 7, and 8 medals? Is it one of these guys from the WPIAL? Is it a Scriven? Is it a Sylphies? Is it a Carter Beck? There's a lot of good guys that are going to battle it out in the consolations.
I like the WPIAL's draws here. I think Kasanovic has a favorable draw with Jace Walter. I think that's a winnable match for him. I think Carter Thomas has a winnable match against Chase Homan, who's been limited this year, only has 19 matches thus far. I think Bateman has a very favorable draw with Woodruff from Blue Ridge. Tucker Maine and Keegan Barrick, I think that should be a good one. Although, a couple weeks ago, I didn't even know if Tucker Maine was going to find a way there, right? Carter Beck, Liam Lawler may be low-key the best first-round matchup of the weight class. Deputy Swank, obviously, you have two guys that were state medalists that could be as well. Jeff, I'm curious to know about Davian Edmond. I've seen him wrestle for a long time. He was a really good youth wrestler. This year, has kind of floated around different weights. I think he tried to get down to 14, just wasn't really in the cards for him. Does he have enough to I'm not saying he's going to upset Gage Botero, but does he have enough to put a string together, some wins in the wrestlebacks?
Well, he certainly opened my eyes with that win over Cowell. Like I said, that was the third time he'd wrestled him this year. First time Cowell beat him 18-10. Second time Cowell beat him 4-1, and then Davion flipped that, or maybe 4-0 second time. But Davion, he had a really nice duck under at the end of the match in the Conti semis. Shameless plug. It's going to be on District 10 Wrestling Technique of the Week tomorrow if you want to check that out on the Erie
Yeah,
Times
let's
News.
go. There's no shameless
Yeah.
plugs on PA Power, brother.
But Davion, he struggled at team states in Altoona.
Yes.
And I know that they were disappointed maybe in how he performed there. So not sure what was up there. That was just after they went with the cut. They tried to drop Edmond down to 14. They tried to drop Camden Barrero down to 21. And like you said, it just wasn't in the cards for those guys. They needed to stay up. And so that's what they did. And Davion has been better since then. And maybe it's a case where that trip to Altoona was just a low point for him and he's peaking at the right time now. But he had a really good tournament last week. And if he can keep that momentum going, watch out for him in the wrestlebacks.
Greg, when you look at this, what do you make of it? Because I think all eyes are going to be on a Detter Deputy match, which, they both were state finalists last year. Detter losing to Aiden Smith and Dom Deputy losing to Joey Bachman. Dom has never not been in the state finals, right? So
yeah.
It's hard to see him not making it. But I mean, losing to Tanner Gano, that was surprising too. That's somebody who I don't think he's ever lost to him in high school. It's always been close, but Tanner picked a great time to win, right? Because now he's sitting. I wouldn't even say it was. He's not sitting good because he wins and he's going to get Gage Patera. So I wouldn't say he's sitting pretty, but I don't know. You tell me. What do you think, Greg?
Yeah, I think the quarterfinals here at 121 are going to be fantastic, right? Not only Deputy Detter, you got Gano, Patero, even Brock Rothermel could have a tough one with a quarterback as well. To me, I'm going with Dom Deputy to get to the semifinals. Obviously, he's been somebody we've watched really grow up, right, Jeff? Because
basically,
watching him and Dyson doing their thing at a young age here with PA Power. I've always loved just kind of following Dom's career to this point, and I think he's going to get it done. He knows how to wrestle in the Giants Center, and that next quadrant down is just. It's tough to pick, in my opinion. I think that's a really wide open quadrant. I'm going to go with Scriven there, but not high confidence. But Deputy, I think, is going to make it to the final for a third time. Botero, I think he's going to get it right here this coming weekend. Knocks off Gano. The question is how that matchup with Brock Rothermel is going to go, right? I think Botero Rothermel is going to be a fantastic matchup. I'm going to go Gage Botero there, but I think it's going to be really tight, and I'll go Botero to win the state title.
Yeah, and that was a Detter and Botero was a sudden victory. It was 8-1 in sudden victory. So Detter was able to get the win there. But the thing about Gage is, I think last year, after winning a state title, comes back to next year, and he's in that super weight, right, with all those talented wrestlers and all those returning state champions. You had Louis Gill, you had Gage Botero, you have Aaron Seidel. I just think when you look at what he's been able to do in Hershey, I don't think that sat well with him last year, and I think he's going to be on a mission this year. I think he beats Tanner Gano. I think Brock Rothermel makes it to the semifinals. I think he can do what Scriven did to Beck and sort of handle him a little bit. I think Rothermel and Botero is going to be a fun semifinal match, one that you absolutely cannot miss. But I think Botero is going to find a way. I think Botero is going to find a way to get it done. I really like Elijah Scriven. I think he's wrestling so well this past couple of weeks against Carter Beck. I think he makes it to the semifinals. I actually think Will Detter's going to make it. I don't know if it's a weight cut thing with Dom. He had some. I know he was sick at Team States. He definitely didn't look great at Team States. Losing to Tanner Gano was uncharacteristic. So, obviously he's capable, and obviously he's in the mix. But I just look back at when they wrestled at the Midwinter Mayhem. Dom threw everything at him, and Detter had an answer to everything. Right. So I'm going to go with Detter to make the semifinals and then to make the finals. And I think we have a rematch of the Southeast Regional tournament here. And this time I think Gage Botero gets it done. Other Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, comeback season, Dom Deputy, another guy who maybe didn't have his best tournament at Team States, right? But I don't know, how do you pick some of these matches, right? Like it's who has a better day. But I'd go Deputy. I do think Scriven's wrestling well right now, make it through the semis, and then Botero and Rothermel. This is a really good weight.
I mean, Fargo national, like Fargo finalist, Fargo champion. You have two Fargo champions. You have a couple Fargo medalists here. You have some really tough incoming freshmen, right? Edmond, we had talked about Bateman as well. It's definitely a top heavy weight for sure. I think there is a little bit of a drop off, but for the most part, I mean, you have a bunch of returning state qualifiers and a couple returning regional medalists that I think are going to do. There's 20 really tough guys. I'd say there's 18 really, really tough guys here. And it should be a lot of fun.
127 pounds, the top seed is the Southeast champ, Joey Bachman from Faith Christian. Number 2 is Northwest champ Logan Stewart from Reynolds. Number 3, the Northeast champ Bradley Wagner from Mifflinburg. And your number 4 is the Southwest champ Eric Carlisle of Penns Valley.
I mean, Joey Bachman beat Grayson Music in the regional finals. Both of those guys were state finals last year. Bachman obviously winning at Music, falling in the finals there in Seidel. But Bachman, the last time they wrestled was Escape the Rock, and it was a tiebreaker match. This time, Bachman doesn't let it get there. He wins 4-2. And I think Joey's been wrestling a little bit conservative this year. I don't know if it's moving up in the weight to 127. He obviously started the year at 121. But he's just been wrestling a little bit conservative, in my opinion. I think he's letting guys in matches with him. You look at this weight class, 27 may be the deepest weight class of the AA tournament per state medalist, right? And just state caliber guys. It's a lot, right? Joey Bachman was a state champion. Grayson Music, state runner-up. You have Logan Stewart, who was 4th in the state. Bradley Wagner, a state 7th last year. Colton Wade, a 2-time state medalist. Slicker, state 8th place finisher. There's a lot of really good guys in this weight class. And like 21, there's just landmines everywhere. Jeff, I want to ask you about Camden Barrero because, boy, he has a really tough matchup with Colton Wade from Sullivan County, who is, every year he's been in Hershey, he's been able to earn a medal. So what do you think about Barrero? Because I will say this, I was expecting him to do well, but I wasn't expecting him to beat Aiden Beimel quite as handily as he did.
Yeah, he hit a big move there to get the major against Beimel 9-0. Good reference point for Barrero is he split with Grayson Music at Team States. Music beat him 1-0.
1-0, right?
Yep. They split, and that's Barrero's thing. Really good on top, which is another thing you Pennsylvanians really value is the top position for whatever reason. Barrero, yeah, he split with Music. He's really good. He's really good. Younger guy, definitely. Not the best spot to enter the bracket there, but he has had two really talented guys ahead of him in the Northwest region. And I'll tell you what, man, I said that Chase Karenbauer was the best District 10's, most potent state championship threat, and he is, but Logan Stewart, I don't know of anybody I've seen who's wrestling as well as Logan Stewart is wrestling right now. Brady Slicker from Hickory is really good. He's the only AAA state medalist from District 10 last year. That's an important note about these
Yep.
Hickory guys, is they were in AAA last year, the last 2 years. Stewart just took it to Slicker the last couple weeks. I think Stewart's wrestling just really, really well. And talking to Cambarero about it, it's hard to really see any holes in Stewart's game right now. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see Logan Stewart in the state finals himself. I mean, I know that wasn't the question, but all three of those guys, Slicker, Stewart, and Barrero, this was the deepest weight in District 10 all year. And then you throw in Aiden Beimel in regionals. So this really was our deepest weight. And it sounds like that was maybe the case in the rest of the state as well in double A.
I feel like Logan Stewart has gotten better as the year goes on, right? And you look at some of his results from earlier this year. At the PIAA tournament, he lost to Gracie Music 7-4. He was up in that match. I remember that was on mat number 3. I was right there on Matt's side, and I was thinking, Logan Stewart's he's gonna win this match. And then Music chipped away and was able to come back to win it 7-4 in sudden victory. Loses to Nico Finella 10-2. Loses to Dom Deputy 12-3, right? So two major decisions that I thought they were going to be a little bit closer. Now, Nico Finella, that's more, they know each other pretty well, and they've wrestled a lot before, so I feel like that's an outlier, right? But then all of a sudden, he went on a damn tear. He beat Aiden Coons 12-8, and then, as you mentioned, he beat Brady Slicker 5-2 the first time around, and then it was a tech fall 18-1, and this last week it was 13 or 14-3. So I feel like he is just getting better and better and better. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think outside of Chase, Logan is definitely the best chance, one of the best chances for District 10 to get a state champion. And honestly, I think he's on a good part of the bracket. On that bottom half, I think he's in a favorable spot. I think Antonio Bonai, who's also a state medalist from 2 years ago from Central Valley, has been wrestling well, but I think Stewart beats him there. And he could end up seeing Music again. Music and Carfley from Bishop McCourt. You got Bishop McDevitt, Bishop McCourt, head to head in the first round. I like that matchup. Bradley Wagner, on the other hand, from Mifflinburg, came out and just went on a tear at the Northeast Regional. You talk about how deep the District 10 and Northwest Regional was. I would argue that the Northeast region was right up there as well, because you had David Kennedy, who beat Grayson Music at Team States. He loses to Bradley Wagner. Wagner ends up beating Colton Wade in the finals, and David Kennedy comes back for third. So just a wild weight class here. I love this weight. I think there's a lot of potential for some really good matches. And oh, by the way, we didn't mention Eric Carlisle from Penns Valley, who was on a tear earlier this year. He beat how many state medals? At least 3 state medals, including Bradley Wagner, David Kennedy. So I don't know, man. This is a fun weight class. There's going to be a lot of really good first round matches. I like the Carfley Music match. I like Slicker and Kennedy. To be honest with you, if there's one I'm definitely circling, it's Slicker and Kennedy. I wonder, Jeff, how much Slicker losing to Logan Stewart like he has, like what that does for him. Like, does it motivate him or does it crush him a little bit? It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, he's a kid who had success in Hershey last year. Like I said, he placed 8th in AAA, so he's been there before. He's done it, and there's no shame in losing to Logan Stewart. I mean, obviously, he would have liked these last 2 matches to be closer than they were, but I think Stewart's really just firing on all cylinders right now. I mean, he took it to Barrero too. He majored Barrero, might have even teched him. Put him on his back. He put both Slicker and Barrero on their backs the last couple weeks. So that's why I say Stewart is wrestling as well as anyone, as I've seen this season, from District 10. And like I said, at 14, it's tough to bet against Bachman. But if Stewart has his hand raised Saturday night, I guess I won't be the most surprised person in the arena.
Okay. There, see, Greg, you wanted some diversity of thought here.
I like
Jeff
it.
is basically saying that Logan Stewart's going to win a state title. You heard it here first.
That's right. I love it.
Those words did come out of my mouth on Saturday at regionals.
Did they?
maybe a hot take, but
Hot take. Okay, I like it. Well, I'm sure Michael Hills is watching. He's like, yeah, all right, Jeff's my boy. Um, Greg, what do you think of this one? Because obviously the Whippeal wasn't a super strong way for them, but Antonio Bonai, he's someone that's been there before. He's gotten on the medal stand. I like where he's at in the bracket. Outside of being feeding into Stewart, I think he has a favorable matchup with Matt Santoro from Saucon Valley, who also has had a really, really good postseason, has really put it together. But what do you think of Bonai's chances? We talked about Beatrice from Derry. He made it to the state tournament, Greg.
Yeah, he snuck in as the number 7. The Whippeal wasn't as strong here. I think we've talked about that the last few weeks. Bonai was the clear number 1, and then it was kind of a mixed bag from there for the WPIL, with Beatrice being a hot and cold wrestler, certainly, over the last few weeks, but able to get it done to at least advance to the state tournament, did Beatrice. But overall, I even think, you're talking about the depth of 27. Southwest may not be the deepest here at this weight, as well. But, I think Bonai's true test was Eric Carlisle, right? Like, how was he going to fare against him? Was he going to be close? And it wasn't, right? So to me, I think he has an opportunity to get in the award stand. It might be more of like a 7th and 8th place, type finish for him. But, just because there's so many other really good wrestlers here in this weight, obviously I like Bachman to win it. But the top, I think Eric Carlisle wrestled very well throughout the Southwest, and easily make it, not easily, but it's going to be a challenge in that quarterfinal against Slicker or Kennedy. But I think Carlisle can get to the semis. But on the bottom half, I like Logan Stewart in the semi. Grayson Music, though, to me, you talked about that loaded weight last year with Gage Botero, right? Grayson Music was able to get to the finals in
Yep.
that weight. So he's a gamer. He shows up at the right time. Yeah, it sounds like he's wrestled just about everyone in this bracket and has split with them or has lost to a few of these guys. But at the end of the day, none of that matters when they get on the mat. Come Hershey starting on Thursday. It's about how they wrestle this weekend, and he did it once last year, and hard to bet against him to make it. And I as much as Jeff's not going to love this, I think Grayson Music can get back to the final.
Why would I not love it? I mean,
Jeff Uvino, I should say.
oh, Jeff, you see, you gotta
I do.
clarify
I got to
these things.
clarify it. I'm struggling with this. I
Well,
apologize.
your mic and your picture, people are probably looking like, what is Greg talking about? Because your picture and your voice aren't matching. So it's like watching that TV, like where you're watching and it's like, to me, I have like OCD. I couldn't handle that. So sorry, the viewers that are watching this. I would agree with you, Greg, and Eric Carlisle is low key somebody who has had a very, very good season. At the Panther Holiday Classic, he beat Brady Slicker in the finals 11-8. It was a tied match 8-8 going into sudden victory, and he was able to get a takedown to win that. That was after beating Bradley Wagner. So you look at him, Eric Carlisle, in my opinion, you're talking about David Kennedy, who just lost to Brad Wagner, Brady Slicker, who you've beaten in overtime before. I'm feeling pretty good, right? Yeah, you got to feed into likely Joey Bachman, but I have Carlisle making the semifinals against Bachman. I actually have Barrero beating Wade. I have Barrero coming out to the semifinals, or excuse me, the quarterfinals. I have Wagner wrestling Music with Music winning that one, and I have Logan Stewart beating Bonai to make the semifinals. And I actually have Grayson Music winning again against Logan Stewart, and we'll see what happens this time around. But I have Joey Bachman beating Grayson Music. But I would not. I agree with the other Jeff. I would not be surprised whatsoever to see Logan Stewart make the finals, nor would I be surprised to see him win it. He's capable of doing it for sure.
And so I was about 2 feet away from Grayson Music when he tilted Louis Gill to his back at the end of that semifinal last year.
Yeah,
So I know, I'm aware of what we're working with here, and that wouldn't surprise me either. But I'm just saying, Stewart looks really good right now.
for sure.
133 pounds. The top seed is the Southwest champ, Jax Forrest from Bishop McCourt. Number 2 is the Southeast champ, Aaron Seidel of Northern Lebanon. The 3 seed Northwest champ, Cyrus Hurd of Northeast. And the 4 seed Northeast champ, Ben Straub of Mifflinburg.
I mean, you should have said Aaron Seidel, the state wins leader, right?
That's
Because
right.
that's what he is. A three-time state champion, looking for his fourth, 54-1 on the season. His only loss is to Jax Forest, Bishop McCourt, in the finals of the Midwinter Mayhem. You would be able to watch that on Rockfin. In fact, we're gonna post that match, just cut it up and put that match out there. We're gonna put up a lot of matches of some of these better first round matches from across the season because we streamed the Panther Holiday, Midwinter Mayhem, and a variety of other matches and tournaments across the season. So yeah, this is the story everyone's talking about. Everyone was. I mean, I can't tell you how many text messages and phone calls I got asking, are either of these guys moving, right? Jax went down to 27 for the team state tournament. Seidel, everyone was asking, is he going to go up? Is he going to go down? He's like, you know what? I'm staying at 33. If I'm going to win a fourth, I'm going to do it in the most supreme fashion ever. I'm going to beat the number one guy in the nation, Jax Forest, right? Look, I respect the hell out of both these guys. They're both going to be incredible wrestlers for the next 5 years, or 6 years, however long they decide to compete for. I can't wait to see this again. And that's not saying that no one else in this bracket's going to push them, but there's no one else in this bracket that comes close to these two, right? That's just how it is. When you look at the other guys in this weight class, right? They both have had their way with the number 3, number 4 guys in the state. So for me, it's just who else is going to finish 3 through 8. That's my assessment when I look at 133.
Yeah, I'd argue I might have the third best kid here in Cyrus Hurd. I mean, I heard in Judice. I mean, Judice obviously is legitimate. I remember he wrestled Carter Beck in a medal match last year down at 14. I think it was down at 14, maybe 21. But Cyrus has looked really good. Had finally got to see him scrap with Keegan Oler from Cathedral Prep last week. Oler had forfeited in the finals 2 weeks prior after a knee injury in the team states. But I know that Keegan's been feeling good. I saw him today, said he feels good. He's about back at 100% health. But Cyrus just looked really good in that match. Cyrus is so tough on top. And he's been there before. And Cyrus competed in that super stacked 133-pound bracket last year. If you
Yeah.
remember, I don't remember who beat him in the going forward, but he lost 13-5 to Mason Gibson wrestling back. And then he beat Hunter Gold, who's not Lockhaven, for 5th and 6th, and he beat Hudson Holman,
Mm-hmm.
who is among the top guys at 45 this year in the wrestlebacks. So Cyrus is the real deal. He's got 2 state medals. That match between him and Judice in the quarterfinals should be great. But
And that's
like you
and that's
said,
a
I'm
rematch
not.
too. That's a rematch from the Midwinter Mayhem.
Yes, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. And I know this, talking to Cyrus this week, he's super excited. Just to be able to go out and scrap. That's what he says. He just likes scrapping, and he'll get a chance to do that and maybe make his way all the way to that consolation final. I'm not going to argue like I did with Stewart about a final spot for Cyrus, but
you, you,
expect to see him on the podium.
and that's Zingo's that's Zingo's champion, Mason Gibson. I just was with Mason Gibson over the weekend at the Zingo Nationals in Jersey, and he won a title there. So shout out Mason. Yeah, I agree with you with Cyrus Hurd. And Jeff, is Cyrus Hurd signed to a college yet? Do you know?
No, he is not.
He's one of the top he's one of the top uncommitted seniors in the state, being a 2-time state medalist. If I'm a college coach, I'm definitely calling him. And you're right, him and Judice very well could be one of the best matches to watch. And again, that's a rematch. I think it was 6-1, if my memory serves me correctly, that Judice won the first time around the Midwinter Mayhem. What do you make of Keegan Orler? Because he's been to the state tournament every year that he's competed. He's never made to the medal stand. You had mentioned the knee injury is because right now I have him ranked number 5th in the state. So
Yeah, Oler's really good. Cyrus beat him 4-1. Cyrus got a takedown in the second period, rode him for a while. Keegan did get out in the third period of that match last week. a key result for Keegan is he beat Zane Krause at Team States, beat him 10-3, if my memory serves me correctly. That was a big result for him. Was beating Zane from Bishop McDevitt, who you'll see is down a little bit more on the bracket here. Keegan's really good. This was perhaps the second best weight in District 10 this year, right? With Tanner Hamilton and Brody Bishop. And those guys are both really good too, right? Those guys both went to states last year.
Yep.
Bishop at AAA and Oler at AAA. So that's the thing with Oler, right? He's gone to states, but it's been in AAA. He lost a couple close ones last year to go 0-2. I know he was disappointed in that. And maybe yet another one that's tough to gauge because I haven't really seen him been pushed outside of Cyrus. Well, we just said that we think Cyrus is the third or fourth best wrestler in this weight. So then, yeah, where do you put Oler? I think that the victory over Kraus certainly helps his stock, but that came the day before the knee. Like I said, I think the knee is fine now. I think he's all right, but I also know that Keegan he's been limited and he hasn't been able to run. Right, he's been limited in his ability to practice and his conditioning in the last few weeks, so that could play a factor. And but here's the reassuring thing about Oler is he's a step ahead of Hamilton and he's a step ahead of Bishop, and we know that both of those guys are really good.
What do you make of Tanner Hamilton? I mean, he's a sophomore. This is the second time this state tournament. I think he's in a decent part of the bracket. To be honest with you, I think him and Gavin Green is a really good matchup. Gavin Green is currently number 6. Hamilton's number 12 in the state. I think that's a winnable match for him for sure. What do you make of him? And is he somebody that could the Northwest potentially get 3 guys on the podium? Could those 3 guys end up making it there?
Yeah, I mean his older brother certainly Cody is certainly one of the top contenders at 52, and it runs in the family. Tanner last year was at a really tough weight. He was
Yes.
behind a couple super tough guys in the region and made it through to states. He didn't podium, but again this year, right, just kind of behind a couple top guys all year, which is maybe taking the spotlight off of him a little bit. But he's been right there. He's gotten better. He's more mature. If you look at him, he looks like a different guy than he did last year as a freshman. Puberty helped him out some in the off season. And he's, the other thing about Grove City is they're sending 5 guys, right?
Yeah.
Karen Bauer, the Hamiltons, Homan, and Ian Stearns. So I don't know how many teams out there have 5 guys in the practice room this week, and that certainly helps. 5 guys who are actually wrestling, right? Not
Yeah.
guys who
Yeah.
are just coming back to practice and roll around. Guys who are actually wrestling at Hershey, and I think that Coach Wes Phipps, he wrestled at Penn State. You guys know him. I think he's going to have those guys ready, and so again, I won't be surprised. Here's the other thing about this 33-pound bracket. I'm not as familiar with a lot of these names because we don't really need to investigate further than the top 2 guys if we're,
Right. Right.
if we're talking about prediction wise. So maybe Tanner is a wild card like a lot of the other guys that he could see throughout the bracket, and yeah, maybe it is a situation like 33 last year where District 10 got the 3 medalists with Holman, Hurd, and Hunter Gold.
I think a lot of these guys are on the same tier, right? Outside of I'd say the top 4, right? We know the top 2 are on a different level. I think 3 and 4, Judice and Hurd, are maybe on a different level. But then I think Oler, Green, Hartraft, Mucci, McClure, Aiden Grogg, Zane Krause, Tanner Hamilton, Bishop, they're all in another tier where honestly, I think anyone can win on any given day, right? So that's why I think the final 4, because I think I would bet a lot of money that Jax, Seidel, Judice, and Hurd are probably going to finish 1 through 4 in some order. But I think the next 4 is what's going to be fun because that could be anybody. And Greg, we had talked about it in the War Up podcast. Is Mason Wright, Emmett Wolf, and all those guys. There's just so many guys from the Southwest and especially in the WPIAL that they can win on any given day.
Yeah, they had a solid 4 for sure. And McClure and Mucci seemed like just a step above Wolf and Wright. But I tell you what, you look at the bracket, and I really like Drake McClure's spot in it. I think he has the ability to make it to the semifinals. You mentioned Hamilton and Green, and that should be a good matchup. But I think McClure, he has Zane Krause in the first round, Ben Straub if he wins, and then the winner of Hamilton Green. I think those are all winnable matches for Drake McClure, and I think he could be in that semifinal against Jax Forrest. Anthony Mucci on the bottom half. I think I like his first matchup against Blaze Vogel. I think he wins that, but obviously runs into Seidel. So what's tough for Mucci is he'll fall in the same bottom quadrant in the consolations as the Herd Judice. So, Mucci might be in a tough spot where, he might end up having to settle for seventh and eighth, depending on what falls down to him in the consolations. But, McClure, again, I think he's got a good spot, and I like him to get to the semifinals against Jax, and I like Jax to win it. On the bottom half, I have Judice over her, but it's going to be a toss-up match, and obviously Seidel to get to the final. And let's just keep this in mind too. I think everybody's like, "Hey, Jax Forrest, another level. He's already beaten Seidel." A lot of people said that too about Spencer Lee and Austin DeSanto, right? I know Lee was hurt, so we'll keep that in mind. But DeSanto, he was like, "Hey, I'm sticking in the bracket. I'm not running away from him. I'm not going down, not going up." And he surprised everybody by winning that title match. So, not going to count out a guy who has over 200 wins in the state of Pennsylvania and 3 state titles.
I certainly don't think anyone's counting him out. I think. Yeah,
I'm
picking
Jax Forrest, but I think it's just again, you don't want to count that guy out. That's all I'm saying. Sure.
Jeff, what are you going with here?
Yeah, I'm taking Jax, right? Like, I don't know.
You ever seen anything like him?
That's the match of the night, right? That's what we're all here for. Yeah. Kind of gives me the vibes of last year at 215, right? Vroom Lawrence versus Austin Johnson, right? Mm-hmm. This is the match. This is the match that we're here to see, and I'm taking Jax Forrest, but it would be quite the story if Seidel pulled it off, and if he did, then I envy whichever journalist gets to write that story, because that'd be pretty cool.
That's fun. Well, speaking of, why don't you get going and start writing some stories? We've kept you long enough.
I'll leave you with my parting thought here before I leave. 139, the number one seed from the Northwest region of 139, Jonathan Bissell. It's kind of a unique case.
Ohio
He's got 100 career pins, first of all. Also, you might not recognize the name, and if you didn't, it's because he wrestled in Ohio last year. Yep. He wrestled for Jefferson, Ohio last year, and he wrestled at the Ohio State tournament. Now he's wrestling at the Pennsylvania State tournament. Don't worry, he did tell me that Pennsylvania is tougher. It's more of a challenge. But he did say that he thought Ohio kids were better on their feet, and that he got better on his feet in Ohio because everyone's so good on their feet. So that reaffirms this whole mat wrestling that you guys love in Pennsylvania. But just a cool story for Bissell. He was third at sections, third at districts, and he won regionals. So congratulations to him. That's awesome. But yes, thank you guys so much for having me on. I got 5 hours to drive tomorrow. So gonna go get ready. And I'm ready to go.
I'll see you tomorrow at Milton Hershey. Remember, don't go to the Giant Center.
Yeah, okay. So I have asked 100 people that today. We're not going to the Giant Center tomorrow.
Do not go to the Giant Center.
Okay, Dang,
there's going to be a lot of people that end up going to the Giant Center, and they're going to be like, "What the hell?" No, go to Milton Hershey High School.
Why is that?
Basically, there's a scheduling. There's a scheduling conflict, but I think telling that this is also the same year that they didn't want the team state tournament, and it's also the year that, for the first time in as long as I can remember, we're not going to the Giant Center the day before. So,
So I was talking to coaches today. I said, I'd be shocked if they have an event Wednesday night and then they're going to come in overnight and set up the mats, but whatever.
So I'll see you at Milton Hershey tomorrow. Don't make your 5-hour trip any more hectic. Go to Milton Hershey, and I'll see you there.
I will. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you guys so much. Jeff. We'll see you this weekend.
Yep.
See you, Jeff.
Greg, it's a good thing you're not going Wednesday, or else you'd probably be at Giant Center walking around, looking around like, hey, where's Mark Uriah at? What are we doing here?
Well, I'd be lost, right? Because it's my first year without him there, so definitely.
Is this the first year? This is your first year without Mark?
Yeah, this is the first year. Obviously you put in 40 plus years going to Hershey to cover the state tournament, so definitely a different feel, but. Yeah, this is just I mean, it was interesting that they made that announcement at the regional tournament. Hey, it's not going to be going to the Giant Center on Wednesday. They have an event there, and yeah, it's just it doesn't have the right same feel to it, right? I mean, you're a lot of guys, especially first timers, getting to go in, just get to roll around a little bit, get to kind of get the environment. Obviously, it's going to be a little different with fans sitting in the seats, but you know, to me, I think it's a makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on that considering we're already an hour through and not halfway through the weights, but it is unfortunate. Did you picked Jax, right? I have Jax beating. I actually have Gavin Green making the semifinals at 133. So write that down, take that to the bank. I have Gavin Green making the semifinals against Jax Forrest, and I have Judice making the semifinals with Aaron Seidel, and Aaron Seidel making the finals with Jax winning it. So in case you were wondering,
I was waiting for it.
well, there you go.
100 and let's dive into 139. Brant Hart of Montgomery is your number one from the Northeast. Number two is the Southeast champ Camden Baum of Bishop McDevitt. Southwest champ Sam Herring of Bishop McCourt, number three, and Northwest champ Jonathan Bissell of Sharpsville is your number four.
Yeah, and Jeff talked about Bissell and his story, and it's a unique one. It was in Pennsylvania, then went to Ohio, and now back to Pennsylvania, being a state qualifier there in Ohio. Look, this weight class is dominated by three really good guys, right? Brent Hare, Sam Herring, and Camden Baum. All these guys are nationally ranked. Hare is a two-time state finalist, a state champion last year. Camden Baum was in the state finals last year against Brent Hare. Sam Herring was injured last year after being ineligible, and he's been right there. And I'll tell you what, he's been firing on all cylinders this season. I really like the way that he's been wrestling, and he had a good win in the regional finals. Beat Gideon Bracken 13-2 was the final. So that's somebody that he's wrestled a couple times now, and he has a win over Camden Baum. He beat Camden Baum at the PIAA tournament, so that was a good barometer, good sort of benchmark for him to see where he was at. That's why he's been number two in the state all year. Now he and Brent Hare did wrestle in the finals of the Midwinter Mayhem, and Brent Hare was able to get that win, but it was damn close. And you look at some of these other guys in the bracket. You got Gideon Bracken, who was a state fifth last year. Noah Doy from Camp Hill was state eighth last year. You have Matt Almadina from Mid Valley, who's a two-time state qualifier. I like him a lot. But outside of that, I feel like it's pretty wide open, Greg.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I thought Lucas Barr of McGuffey picked the wrong time to have a tough weekend. Finishing in fifth place and dropping a couple of matches that you didn't expect him to lose. Obviously losing to Dawson Lomson of Bald Eagle in the quarterfinals, 9-8, and then he lost to Bertucci as well in the consolation. So prior to that, I would have said, hey, you know what? I like Lucas Barr, but Lucas Barr has a really good spot in the bracket. I'm now that Jeff mentioned what he did about Bissell, I'm really intrigued by that potential matchup in the round of 16 between Bissell and Barr. But even if Barr wins that, you got Lomson there, and you have Noah Doy as well. So that quadrant's interesting to me. I think any one of those four, Doy, Lomson, Bissell, Barr, I think any of them could be the representative in the semifinals. But yeah, you're right in saying the top three are going to make the semis. I mean, that's without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, again, top heavy for sure. But when you look at the bracket, that quadrant with Doy, Lomison, and Bissell and Barr, and I think Charlie Page, that's a tough match for Lucas Barr. That's an unpredictable quadrant to me. I think Brent Hare is obviously going to win that top quadrant. I think he beats Gideon Bracken. Sam Herring, I don't think is going to have any issues making it to the semifinals, and I don't think Camden Baum is going to have any issues making it to the semifinals. I don't see any matches here that they're going to be pushed. So I have a Sam Herring Camden Baum rematch. I have Sam Herring winning that again, but that could be easily flip. I have Noah Doy making it to the semifinals, beating Lomison and then beating Bissell. But I like what you said about Barr and Bissell. I think that's a really good weight class or a good matchup. And as Jeff said, Bissell I was not expecting him to win a regional title because he had lost in the 2 weeks prior. He was third at sections, third at districts, and then won the regional title. So a little bit more of a surprise regional champion here, but I like that quadrant. I really do think that all 5 of those guys have potential to make it out.
Yeah, and I mean I have the same picks as far as that go, and obviously Brant Hara have winning the title, but over Herring in the final. So yeah, I'm with you there, and I'm interested to see how some of the consolations kind of work out as well. Matt Dana, I like him to win his opening match. I like Julian Bertucci to win his opening match as well, but obviously they run into Hare and Baum. But the question is like, once they fall down, what happens from there?
Right.
Does Bertucci fall into, Bracken for instance, or will he get, will he get maybe say like a bar or a Bissell with the winner getting a medal? Those are some of those intriguing matchups in the consolations that I think will be interesting to see how 4 through 8 finish up at 139.
Agree. And I think the best matchup of the first round is probably going to be Noah Doy and Dawson Lomason. I was very impressed with Lomason beating Barr, and I'll tell you what, he's had a really good season. Was very impressed with him all year. He's always in a match. He's dropped a couple matches that he probably shouldn't have, but he's always been in matches with some really tough guys. And him and Doy comes in ranked 5th in the state. Lomason is number 7, so a top 10 matchup right away in the first round.
145 pounds. The top seed is Bo Bassett, Southwest champ from Bishop McCourt. Number 2 is Matthew Smith, the Northeast champ from Midwest. Number 3, Northwest champ Hudson Homan of Grove City. And number 4, the Southeast champ Mason Wagner of Faith Christian. Jeff, does Bo make it out of the first period in the state tournament?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
He did not make it out of the first period in the Southwest Regional, and he obviously.
I don't think he made it out of the first period. Did he make it out of the first period last year at States?
I can't recall, to be honest with you.
I feel like
I want to say.
I have to look it up.
I want to say one match he did not. I want to say he got to maybe the second period. But I might be wrong though. So no discrediting Bo in that instance, but. Yeah, I mean, I don't expect. Obviously, we expect him to win in dominating fashion. I can't remember who it was yesterday.
He did make it to the second period and to the finals, 2:55. The longest he wrestled was 2 minutes and 55 seconds. I could see that happening again. I could see Mason Wagner taking it to the second period with him if they end up hitting. Look, after Bo, I feel like it's wide open. Matt Smith is the highest returning medalist, but I will say I think it's pretty wide open because Matt Smith lost to Shane Wagner, who is Mason's twin, not actually Mason Wagner. Shane Wagner wrestled at 45 at the Coal Cracker. Mason Wagner's a state medalist from 2 years ago. He was 5th. Hudson Homan, another one who was a 2-time state medalist as well. But Matt Smith, another one who is 4th in the state. So yes, this is a weird weight because you have the number 1 guy in the nation, pound for pound, class of 2026. But you have like Cole Householder and Nolan Savage. I think that's a really good first round matchup. Householder's been injured basically all season. He loses to a kid from Reynolds, Gustus, who he had eventually finishes ahead of him, but they don't hit head to head. I think Nolan Savage is a freshman that probably doesn't get as much credit as he should. He's been really, really tough. But then you have like Hayden Andrus from Bermudian Springs, who 2 years ago was state 3rd in the state. Look, Hudson Homan and Hayden Andrus were 3rd and 4th in the state at like 121 2 years ago. They're both now at 145. And there's a very good chance that they hit in the quarterfinals. But I'm not looking past Lucas Boyer. Lucas Boyer had a hell of a tournament at the Southwest Regional, Craig.
Yeah, he really did. And, the top half, it seems like, okay, you have Bo Bassett that's going to get to the final. Seems like Mason Wagner is going to get to that semi and face him. I don't know how this bottom's going to shake out, right? I mean, Boyer Andrus in the first in the round of 16, that's a great matchup. To your point, Boyer He wrestled great in the WPIL side of things. He obviously gets a big win over Garshnik, 2-0 in the semifinals to get to the final against Bo Bassett this past weekend. So Boyer's got a tough road, right? He's got Andrus, and then he's going to have Homan. And then if he can do that, then he's going to have a potential rematch with Garshnik or taking on Matt Smith. So he's got a heck of a road for being the Southwest runner-up. But yeah, I mean, between Homan, Lucas Boyer, Andrus, Garshnik, Smith, I could see any one of those five guys being in the finals.
I would. I don't argue. I would not argue with you whatsoever on that. Yeah, there's just a lot of parity here, and I like this weight class a lot because of that. It's going to be a lot of fun, and Boyer, Andrus is probably one of the best first round matchups. That is a number 4 versus a number 12. But like Easton Comp, he's been really impressive down the stretch. Him and Garfschnick, it should be a really good match. But Garfschnick is so dangerous. You know, he's a 2-time state medalist, finishing 5th last year and 8th the year prior. It's just dangerous. He pins people all the time. You know, I agree with you. I think he could easily find himself in the semifinals and maybe in the finals. Dawson Schaefer from Berlin, another guy who was injured after being down at 39. He comes up to 45, and he's a little banged up, I think, because he kind of did what Bruce Anderchak did. He got to a certain point, then defaulted. But he's somebody that I'm keeping an eye on as well. So yeah, there's a lot of just openness here. Unlike some of the weights we just described, I feel like outside of the number one guy, it's wide open, right? Which is a lot of fun. I would have liked to see Mason Wagner away from Bassett to see if he would get a chance to make it to the finals, because I think he's probably the second best guy here in the weight. But you know, that's not how it shaped out, and yeah, we'll see. But this should be a lot of fun, and we'll have to take bets on Bo making it out of the first period. I think he does get out of the first period. I don't think he'll definitely. I don't think he'll go 6 minutes for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think if he's going to go out, it's going to be that semifinal match against Wagner, just because I think in the finals, you know, he's going to be he's a gamer, right? He's going to be ready to rock and roll. Obviously, he knows he's going to get a state title, but I think his goal is like, hey, I want to put on a show. I want to be able to tech my way in the first period here in the state finals. So I think he's going to be wanting to do that in that championship match. That's why I think the semifinal is where that could happen. But I also could see him getting the tech in the first period. So I like Bassett in the final against Wagner. This bottom is super tough to pick, Jeff, but Lucas Boyer has wrestled really well. I'm going to say that he battles through to get these victories, and he ends up making it to the final, and he's going to beat Matt Smith of Midwest in the semi.
Okay. I mean, that's a fair assessment. I mean, him beating Garfschnick really opened up my eyes, I think. And Matt Smith avenged some losses. He was able to get a win in the regional finals against Riley Vanderpool, who he had lost to the week prior. So I feel like he's wrestling well and a little bit better than he was. And he's going to have a tough road if he should get there. But I have Smith making it to the quarterfinals against Garfschnick. I have Smith winning that. I have Homan wrestling Hayden Andrus. I have Homan winning that, even though it was flipped 2 years ago. I have Homan winning that. I have Matt Smith making it to the state finals against Bo Bassett, who I have beating Householder in the quarters. And then I have Wagner versus Clay Kimmy. And I have Wagner beating Kimmy. And Kimmy, if you remember, was the one that took down Bo Bassett at the Midwinter Mayhem. By taking down, I mean he got a physical takedown. He didn't beat him, obviously. But yeah, that everyone was cheering in there. So it was a kind of cool story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have Bo winning this. So we'll see, man. It's gonna be fun.
152 pounds, the Southwest champ Devin Magro of Bishop McCourt is your top seed. Southeast champ Ryan Lawler, Bishop McDevitt number 2. Northwest champ Cody Hamilton of Grove City, number 3, and Northeast champ Landon Wagner of Lewisburg, number 4.
And Devin Magro is just so good. He's down a weight class last year. He was at 160, where we know how good he was there. He ended up in third place behind Connor Hare, who's starting at Rutgers, and Devin Magro is committed to Rutgers, also where Mason Gibson is currently. Look, this bracket, with Max Stein losing to Ryan Lawler in the regional finals, it now sets up a 1 versus 3, which Max Stein was number 2 basically all year. Max Stein was a state runner-up last year, lost to Melvin Miller in the finals there, and Magro's just been on a different level, I feel like. Now, he had a little bit of, I would say, a little bit closer matchup than maybe some were expected over Mason Horwat, but Mason Horwat is really good. We shouldn't take anything away from that. And honestly, that's the best quarterfinal I have right here is at 152 is Cody Hamilton versus Mason Horwat. That's a 4 versus a 5 in the state currently. I think they both make it there, and I think that's a really, really good matchup. I think Ryan Lawler won the regional title, and now he's rewarded with potentially wrestling a Horwat or a Hamilton in the semifinals, but I think he would rather do that than be on the same side as Devin Magro, right?
Yeah.
Which those two have wrestled before. In fact, they wrestled at our event. These 3 guys, we had a 3-man bracket at True Power this year. It was Cody Hamilton versus Ryan Lawler, and then the winner wrestled Devin Magro. And so Hamilton and Ryan Lawler wrestled first. It was a really good match, back and forth. Lawler ends up winning that, and then Lawler wrestled Magro, where Magro won that. But that bottom half stacked between Hamilton, Horwat, I would even say Jonah Erdley as well, and Ryan Lawler. That's a really good. I really like that weight class on the bottom half, and whoever makes it to the finals is going to have to earn it.
Yeah, and you know what? Talk about the WPIAL for a second here, Jeff. They finished 2 through 7, and actually 2 through 8, because Garrett Newman was the 8th place finisher from McGuffey and doesn't make it on. So the WPIAL fared extremely well here at 152. You had Devin Magro and the rest, but I'm interested to see how they kind of do here at the state tournament, right? Because I think everybody stepped up a notch against the Southwest region. But how do they fare against everyone else? I like Mason Horwat a lot. I mean, he's had a fantastic season. He's been the clear cut above the rest in the WPIAL. But yeah, I mean, the good news is for the Whippeals that they have a ton of wrestlers here in this weight class to go ahead and see if they can get multiple guys on the award stand.
Well, and there's not a lot of wiggle room here. You have 6 guys that were returning state medalists, right? So
Right.
if you're so either all 6 of those guys medal again, and only 2 guys end up getting on the medal stand in addition to them, or you have a couple guys that don't medal and a couple new ones that do. So like a Jackson Albert or Parker Pisarcek, they could have a good weekend and end up getting in. Yeah, there's some. I wouldn't say there's a drop off, because I don't think there's a drop off, but I definitely think those, Magro, Lawler, Stein, Hamilton, Horwat are just definitely on a little bit of a different level, and I'd even throw Jackson Albert in there as well. He was 7th in the state. That to me is just kind of like Parker Pisarcek's good, right? Ian Vitalo is good. Jonah Erdley is good, but do they have enough to just get over that hump and get in? Obviously, 2 of them potentially could.
Right.
Landon Wagner was the surprise regional champion for me. I did not have Landon Wagner from Lewisburg winning the Northeast region. I thought Shadle from Line Mountain had a pretty good chance to win that. Braden Andrews was also in the mix as well. Aiden Hunsinger. District 4, the Northeast region, was really just well balanced. So Landon Wagner, I think, was a little surprising for me for sure. But unfortunately, he's in that same quadrant with Max Stein, who I think ends up making it to the semifinals against Devin Magro. And then on the bottom half, I have Mason Horwat making the quarterfinals against Cody Hamilton, with Horwat winning it. And don't hurt me, West Phipps, please, when I see you tomorrow. And I also have Ryan Lawler making it to the quarterfinals and then semifinals. I have Jonah Erdley making it to quarterfinals, beating Braden Andrews, with Ryan Lawler making it to semifinals and beating Mason Horwat to make it to the finals, with Devin Magro
Yeah,
winning it.
yeah, I got Magro winning it. Stein wrestling Magro in the semi. Horwat to the semis over Hamilton with
See,
Lawler
Wes beat
in the
up Greg,
final.
not me.
But you got to expect it from me, right? I mean, I got to whip your shirt on. So,
That's true.
but yeah, I like Horwath. Just he's tough, and he's only a sophomore as well. So it's gonna be fun watching him the next couple of years. But yeah, I like
All
Lawler
of those
to
dairy
stay.
guys are young and tough.
Absolutely. 160 pounds, Northeast champ Reagan Milheim of Warrior Run, your number one. Southwest champ Melvin Miller of Bishop McCourt, number two. Southeast champ Chase Haunts of Faith Christian, number three. And Northwest champ Brandon Bird of Erie Cathedral Prep, number four.
So, like 133, where you have two guys that are state champions in the same weight class, you have Melvin Miller and Reagan Milheim, also two state champions that are returning here at 160 pounds, and obviously that's one of the more marquee matchups. Melvin Miller is, depending on the publication you look at, he's the number one ranked guy in the nation. Only loss was at the Ironman tournament when he was up at 172 to the number one ranked guy in the nation, Ladarian Lockett. So that's not a huge deal, right? I like this weight for a variety of reasons. Chase Haunts and Melvin Miller actually wrestled at our event True Power 2 years ago, with Melvin winning that one. But if you look at the depth here, obviously Melvin being a state champ, Milheim being a state champ, Haunts being a two-time state medalist, fourth and third. After that, though, it opens up a little bit. You know, you have Owen Ifchik from Bentworth, who I feel like we've talked a lot about on the show. And yes, he lost to Melvin in the finals, but I think he's in a good spot, to be honest with you, in the bracket. I think Nicky Negron is going to obviously pose a threat. I think all those Bishop McDevitt guys always come ready to wrestle. You know, they had a good regional tournament, I thought, and Nicky Negron, I think, is going to be game for that match. But I think Owen Ifchik is going to win that. And to be honest with you, I think he wins that. I think the winner there makes the semifinals. I mean, Brandon Bird is good, but the Northwest region, and Jeff will probably agree with me, the Northwest region wasn't like completely stacked here. I like Jaden Whaler, and in fact, Jaden and Owen wrestled in the Ultimate Warrior finals. It was a good match, but Owen ended up winning that by a fairly good margin. I really like the freshman Sam Almedina from Mid Valley. He's another one, and I think that first round matchup with Jaden Whaler is probably one of the better matchups in the first round there. That's a number 5 versus number 8 in the state. Almedina is being 5, Whaler being 8. I don't know, man. This is I would even say Cole Hubert and Ryan Seleshi is a good first round matchup. Cole Hubert, he's a Division One baseball recruit. He's going to, I believe, Texas A&M for baseball. Wrestling's not even his first, maybe not even his second sport. And Cole Hubert decided to show up and wrestle really well at the regional tournament. He was a 2-time state medalist in the last 2 years, in 2003 and 22, but was only a qualifier last year. He decided to come out and wrestle really well. And yeah, this is going to be a fun weight class. Obviously, it's highlighted by Melvin Miller versus Reagan Milheim, two state champions going head to head.
Yeah, and you like them to get to that final, and I like Miller to win that. But yeah, it's gonna be a great finals matchup, and yeah, it's awesome to see you have multiple weight classes with returning state champs, so they're gonna battle it out. Just makes it a lot more entertaining for sure. And I agree with, I like Chase Haunts, and I like Owen Isick as well to make it to the semifinals. I really do. I mean, the Whippeal did well in the Southwest region here too, being able to claim 5 of the 7 spots, and you know, you got guys that are dangerous, right? I mean, you and Olson wrestled tough, to get that 4th place finish. Gabe Lilly, who we've talked about, is a guy who, he's a pinner, right? He's going to go out and make some moves. And Ryan Salashi, I think that you look at that round of 16 match, you hit on the head where Hubert and Salashi is probably one of the best ones here at 160 in the round of 16. So a lot of really good matchups, and be interested to see how they kind of go through, really from 3 to 8. But yeah, Miller and Milheim are going to be fun.
Yeah, and I think Hans is the clear number 3 here.
He seems
Um,
to be. Yeah, I'd
yeah,
agree.
I would say he's the clear number 3. I think Miller, Milheim, and Hans are well established as 1 through 3. But I really think that Owen Ivchik, Almadina, I would even say Bird, Slashy, those guys are all in the mix. Mason Gorley from Clarion, Central Clarion, I really like him as well. But they're all kind of in that same tier, that same bucket. Ewan Olson and Layden Acevedo from Berks Catholic, both of them had maybe underperformed a little bit in their district and then kind of rebounded a little bit in the regional. Olson coming back for 4th and Acevedo taking 5th. But that's a good first round matchup. I like that one and the Pigtails. How about Ben Catula from Burrell finding a way to the state tournament? That was impressive too, because I didn't think he was going to get in.
Yeah, I mean, he had a great weekend, in the Southwest region to be able to advance there, and had a big win over Cheney Lewis, to be able to get in that 7th and 8th place matchup, and then able to get the 7th place finish. But yeah, he battled tough. He had a tough match with Gabe Lilly in the consolations. So yeah, I mean, I think overall, I mean, he had a good win over Caleb Sines in the round of 16 to be able to get to the quarterfinals too in the winners bracket. So yeah, Catulo wrestled tough, and only a sophomore for Burrow, and being able, and this is what Burrow does, right? I mean, it's like they get these
Yeah.
guys to get that like 6th, 7th spot as freshmen, sophomores, have a good regional run, and then they get that state exposure. They usually do on the team side, but then they get on the individual side too, and then all of a sudden, you have an off season of training and going to the mat factory and different things like that. Then all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden they come back the next year and they're, top 4 or 5 in the state. So it's what Burroughs. That's how they continue to stay the top team in the WPL,
And,
because they get
and
that.
remember, they're without their best wrestler in Cam Baker.
Yeah,
And they
right.
still qualified how many to the state tournament? That was impressive to me.
No doubt about it. 100 and
Whoa! What are your picks here, bud?
I thought we already made our picks.
I didn't make any of my picks.
Milheim, Ivsick,
I didn't make.
excuse me, Hans, Miller to win it, Milheim in the final.
Is that what you have?
That's what I have. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's why I have Miller in the semifinals, obviously, against Chase Hans. I have Hans beating Almadina. Yep. I have Owen Ipchik beating Negron and then Bird. And then Milheim beating Slushy and making it to the finals, and Melvin winning it. So, yeah, I guess we have the same. You may carry on now.
Hey, thanks, boss. I appreciate that. 172 pounds, the top seed, the Northwest champ Brady Collins of Clearfield. Number 2 is the Northeast champ Max Wernsberger of Warrior Run. Number 3 is the Southeast champ Nick Singer of Faith Christian. And number 4, the Southwest champ Jaden O'Farrell of Bishop McCourt. Jaden O'Farrell with the record of 9-4. He had probably one of the most surprising weekends as far as getting a couple of big wins to win the Southwest regional title.
Yeah, I mean, results from the regional tournaments that kind of surprised me, or maybe not surprised me, but stood out to me, was Nick Singer, the way he was able to dismantle Luke Fugazada of Northwestern Lehigh. He beat him by major. I forget exactly what the score is. Let me look at it real quick. It was 12-0, right? Fugazada is a guy who last year made the state finals. So that's a pretty damn impressive win for him. The other one was Jaden O'Farrell not only winning it, but pinning Jackson Angelo, right? Now, I think they wrestle 10 times. Jackson Angelo may win probably 7 of those. And Jaden O'Farrell just he took advantage of a position and ended up, getting the win and getting the pin, right? So, and that's kind of a Bishop McCourt thing, right? Those guys show up in big matches. they know how to win, right? He's a guy who has won a college open, just recently made it into the lineup as a starter, right? So I think that now that he's the starter, I think that probably helps. He did lose to Mason Savitz from Corey when Corey wrestled McCourt in the team tournament. So I think that's a good barometer to see, okay, you lost to Savitz. Now Angelo and Savitz wrestled in that first round. I think you wrestle that again. Angelo will probably win that. But that sets up a potential quarterfinal with Nick Singer, who's number 2 in the state, versus Jackson Angelo, who's 9, but at one point was as high as number 4, right?
Yeah.
So that's a really good quarterfinal matchup. Max Wernsberger and Gage Wenzel have flipped. They're, I think, at 5 now, at least 4, and I think they each have a win apiece. Those two can bat. I mean, and I'm I'm glad the regional first and second are on opposite side of the brackets, because I really don't want to see these two wrestle anymore. I think those two are they just battle, and I feel like someone's gonna get hurt eventually because they just bang on each other so much. But that sets up a Gage Wenzel, because he lost. He's on the top half now, and I think him and Carmine Lenzi is a really good first round matchup. Lenzi was 6th in the state last year. Wenzel was 4th. Lenzi, of course, beat Elijah Brown last year and ends up making it to the podium. But I like Gage Wenzel in that quadrant. Keep an eye on Sam Harrington from Cathedral Prep. I'm sure if Jeff was still here, he would give us a little bit more background on him. But he's only a freshman, has had a really good season for the Ramblers. Fugazato, again, a state finalist, is going to wrestle likely Brady Collins in that quarterfinal. A guy that's right now a 1 versus 3 in the state as it stands, which is just insane to me.
Yeah.
Max Wernsberger, I feel like him getting that win was crucial, because I feel like he has a pretty good shot to make the semifinals. I like the Lisinski and Cash Morrell match from Cochranton. Morrell is a guy who is, if you haven't seen him before, you haven't wrestled him before, you may not know what he has, but he's kind of a big freestyle Greco guy in a certain sense. He throws guys. He likes to pin people. But I'll tell you what, Lisinski's been battling all season. He has 11 losses, but they're all 11 quality losses. Really, really good wrestling that he's had. But Nick Singer, man, the way he put it on Fugazato makes me think that he could win a state title here for sure.
Is that your pick to win it, Nick
I'm not
Singer?
picking him yet, because we haven't got to our picks yet. But I definitely think that he has a good chance. Brady Collins, he's tasted that Paul Myers, who can't work for PA Power this year because he's officiating the state tournament, so he got a big upgrade. He went from media row to mat side, or on the mat, right? So
Yep.
shout out Paul Myers for getting the call up to officiate the state tournament. That's a huge honor, and he deserves it. But he had an interview with Brady Collins last year, and Brady Collins was emotional, and he said, Brady Collins, 2025, 172 state champion. Like he called a shot, right? I tend to believe him. I feel like he was so close last year, and I don't think he wants to taste that defeat again. But we're gonna see. He's gonna have to bring it, because this is a very deep weight class. When you look at the amount of state medals here, Jackson Angelo, state 5th, Lenzi, state 6th, Wenzel, 2-time state medalist, Wernsberger, state 7th, Fugazato, state 2nd, Brady Collins, 3rd and 4th in the state. Singer's the only one here without a state medal, and that's because last year he was behind a guy named Adam Waters, and now he's a starter. So, yeah, this is a fun weight class, and I can't wait to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, just a lot of great matchups, right? I mean, you mentioned Wenzel Lenzi. That's going to be probably one of the best ones in the round of 16 here at 172. But Savitz and Angelo it's going to be a really good one. Lisinski and Morrell, I think, is going to be a really good one. So to me, I think there's going to be some awesome matchups throughout each round, right? Fugazato, Collins, fantastic. The winner of Wenzel Lenzi likely against Jaden O'Farrell. Or even Grady Clark, because Grady Clark beat O'Farrell the previous week for the District 6 title.
He did. I
So
mean, that to me was crazy that O'Farrell like turned it around that much because and that's I'm glad you pointed that out because when you looked at that bracket, that 172 bracket, O'Farrell was in a position where I feel like he had a favorable run to the semifinals, but I didn't think he was going to get past Angelo, especially considering he lost to Clark the week prior. Lisinski beats Clark, right? Lisinski
yeah.
goes to the finals and then loses 8-6 to O'Farrell. So, was that just a bad week for O'Farrell? That's the thing with O'Farrell is he doesn't have a lot of mat time in high school, right? He hasn't been out there a whole lot, and um, it's just it's hard to gauge, right, where he is because he's been up and down, right? Obviously, this last weekend wasn't up, but he's had down weeks. So, um, yeah, it's just crazy. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, and you don't. It's because you mentioned, right? Was was O'Farrell having an off week in the District Six? Was Grady Clark having a rough week last week, right, in the Southwest region? Because he
Mm,
not only lose Lisinski, he lost to Landon Delara of Southmoreland.
for sure.
He had a closer one against Marcus Ritchie of Quaker Valley to get the seventh place nod. So, you just never know like who was having that off week, so to speak, and where that talent level really sits. But for O'Farrell to beat Angelo, I got to give him the nod there to get to the quarterfinals. And, that's going to be a good one between, the winner of Wenzel Lindsay. And then, yeah, I mean, Jackson Angelo, is that a wake up call, right? That he ended up losing to O'Farrell and, getting pinned by O'Farrell? Because if it is, can he wake up in time to beat and knock off Savitz and Nick Singer? Because if he does, there's a chance he gets to that state final, but he's going to
Yeah,
have to really have that wake up call and be ready to go in the round of 16.
yeah. I mean, the way Nick Singer's been wrestling, I can't see anybody beating him on the bottom half, and
Yeah.
that includes Max Wernsberger, who is a is a damn good wrestler. But I mean, just watching what Singer did to Fugazada, who again was a state finals last year and is a really good wrestler, and he dismantled him, right? Now the new scoring system, I know that plays a part, and the numbers aren't necessarily always accurate to how close the match was. But look, I have Nick Singer making the state finals here. I have Nick Singer beating Jackson Angelo in the quarterfinals. I have Lisinski beating Morel, but I think that's a really good match. I think it's a toss-up. I have Warnsberger winning there, and Warnsberger beating Lisinski to make the semifinals, with Singer beating Warnsberger to make the finals. On the top half, I have Collins beating Fugazada. I have Wenzel beating Lindsay, and O'Farrell beating Harrington. I have O'Farrell, or excuse me, I have Wenzel beating O'Farrell, and I have Brady Collins beating Fugazado. I have Collins beating Wenzel to make the state finals. Whew, moment of truth. Man, this is a tough one. I was asked this a couple weeks ago, and I said Brady Collins pretty quick. But again, like just Nick Singer, the way he's been wrestling, this is a tough one. I think it's a coin flip, to be honest with you. Like, I think Brady Collins, he looked maybe a little sluggish at the Midwinter Mayhem, and then he turned it back on, and I feel like ever since then he's been on a tear. But Nick Singer, man, he just wins at such big point margins. It's hard to think that he's not gonna be in this. I'll come back to me. I'm like the person at the table who's like, I'll take my order in a second. What do you got, Greg?
Yeah, you know what? Going up to that final, I had the same thing, honestly.
Okay.
I like Wenzel in that matchup against Lindsay. I think whoever wins that match gets to the semifinals. That's no disrespect to O'Farrell, but I just think those two guys, it's going to be a great matchup in round 16. So I like Wenzel to get to the semifinal against Collins, with Collins winning. I'd love to pick Jackson Angelo to get to the semi, but I think Nick Singer does, especially the way he won the Southeast region. I like Singer to get there and get to the final against Wernsberger. And, I mean, Lisinski, I think he gets that opening round win as well, but I don't think he's going to have enough to get past Wernsberger. So my champion, I'm going Brady Collins. I think he's been the guy all season long, and it's hard to dip away from that, right before the state tournament.
Yeah. I'm at like 51-49 Brady Collins. Like it's so damn close. The common opponent here is Brian Hurd. Um, Brian Hurd, who we talked about last night in AAA at Abington Heights. Hurd beat Singer 8-4 at the Coal Cracker tournament. Hurd beat Collins at the Midwinter Mayhem 10-2. And that's where I said I thought Brady looked a little sluggish in that match with Hurd. Now he looked a lot better coming back for third at the Midwinter Mayhem. So they're obviously very close. Like 8-4, 10-2, like that's a few points, but they both lost to Hurd. I'm going to go with Collins, but not very confident. Again, 51-49% here.
189 pounds, the top seed, the Southeast champ, Adam Waters from Faith Christian. Number 2 is the Southwest champ, Caleb Close from Bald Eagle. Number 3 is the Northwest champ, Aiden Bliss of Port Allegheny. And number 4 is the Northeast champ, Tyler Ulrich of Warrior Run.
Yeah, Ulrich, man, he's a guy who, to start the season, I wasn't sure, one, where he was going to fit into the lineup, and two, what type of wrestler we were going to see, and he ends up winning a regional title. So I thought that was really impressive. The Southwest was really deep, obviously, at 189. I think we've talked about it most of the year with Caleb Close and Kyle Scott, but then you throw in Brady Brown as well, and that was a tiebreaker match that Scott was able to beat Brown in the semifinals, and then Close turned it on, but Scott was battling that. That was a 14-9 match. Adam Waters is the guy here, right? And that's no disrespect, but he's on a different level, right? I'd say Close, Scott, and Brown are on their own tier, but Adam Waters is just on another step above them. Caleb Close is a 3-time state medalist, 8th, 7th, and 3rd. Last year, a lot of people had him penned as a champion, a state champion. Ends up taking 3rd. Kyle Scott, state medalist last year. Brady Brown, if you remember, had a huge win over Lucas Lawler, but was unable to get onto the podium in Hershey last year as a freshman. I like all three of those guys to return to the medal stand, but I just can't see anybody coming close to Adam Waters. I agree with Jeff in his assessment of 189. Aiden Bliss and Easton Belfiore from Brookville, those guys have been going back and forth, and Bliss most recently had that win. Both of these guys are state qualifiers from a year ago. Looking at the first round matchups and looking to see kind of where guys are, one that jumps off the page to me is Corey Bryson and Tanner Rock from Littlestown. I like these guys. Bryson's kind of been in the mix all season, and I think right now they're 8 and 12 in the state, if I remember correctly, on our updated rankings. But Brown could very much make the quarterfinals and the semifinals on that quadrant there on the bottom top half. I like that matchup for him. I like where he's sitting in the bracket.
Yeah, I love where he's sitting in the bracket. And took away my thunder a little bit there. Sorry. Because no, that I mean, it happens. I like where he's at though, because I think he beat CJ Pensiro, Bishop McCourt, once in the quarterfinals. And then in the 3rd and 4th place match, he was winning before getting pinned for 4th place. But it really does him a favor, because if not, Brown is feeding into Adam Waters in the quarterfinal. Now he at least has a shot to make a state final, right? Does he beat Caleb Close? I don't think he does. But I like where he's at. He's going to obviously have to battle each round because he's a 4th place finisher. I mean, that matchup against Bliss, I think, is going to be really good in the round of 16. And then getting the winner of Rock Bryson will be a tough quarterfinal. But I think they're both, all three of his are very winnable matches. And I actually like Brady Brown to get to the semifinals at 189. And honestly, I like the Southwest as a whole, outside of obviously Adam Waters winning it, but the rest of the Southwest being Caleb Close, Kyle Scott, Brady Brown to make the semis.
Yeah, and do you remember what the score was when Pensiero pinned him? I forget what it was. It was
like 6-4, I believe, when he pinned him. But it was, I want to say it was like 2-2 after 2, but then like Brown got an escape and takedown, and then I think he got reversed to his back. I think is
Right.
what happened.
Yeah,
But
I mean they've wrestled twice that weekend, right? And I would put more stock in that first round matchup where Brown won 10-5, but Pensiero's dangerous. I mean, again,
yeah,
Bishop McCourt guys like Jaden O'Farrell, like all the other ones that we mentioned, like they showed up, right? And he got a really big win there. So not taking anything away from it, but I think the next time around, I think Brown probably is favored there. But yeah, I like some of these early round matchups. I think Brown can beat Bliss. And I actually do have Brown making the semifinals there. Jared Roan from Saucon Valley is one that I have circled as someone to keep an eye on. Not saying that he's going to knock off Caleb Close, right? But he's definitely somebody that I think can make some noise. He was a district champion, but then lost to Tanner Rock from Littlestown in the semifinals. Came back for third. Yeah, but there's a lot of top end talent here. I think Belfiore and Pensiero is a really good first round matchup as well. But again, you feed right into Adam Waters, so that kind of sucks. Yeah. I like Pensiero finding his way onto the medal stand though. I think he can make a run. How about Zayshawn Williams from Freedom? I thought he's had a good postseason.
Yeah, and he was in the right spot in the bracket,
Yeah,
right, as far as
sure.
the Southwest region goes, to be able to get to the semifinals. It was a matter of I thought it was going to be him and Slayton Williams battling out for that spot to get to the semis. Slayton Williams ended up losing after a great WPL tournament to allow Zishan to have two tech falls to get there. And obviously he ends up dropping 3 straight to finish in 6th place. But obviously just a solid first day, right,
Yeah.
for Zishan to get there. But 189, I think is one of those weights outside of Brady Brown for the WPL is like it's not the deepest, right? They're guys 2 through 6, 2 through 7 that any given week you're going to have a different result. So
Yeah.
it was hard to really peg who might get out of there outside of Brown. But yeah, great for Zishan Williams to make it to the state tournament.
Yeah, and Tyler Ulrich's, I mean, he low key is probably one of the more underrated wrestlers here. I really like him, and Warrior Runs obviously. He's got some pretty good partners in the room, and I think he's sitting in a good spot. I think he makes the quarterfinals. I like Kyle Scott. I like Kyle Scott to make it to the semifinals. I have Waters beating Belfiore, and then Pensiero. I have Pensiero winning against Belfiore, and then I have Scott beating Ulrich to get to the semifinals. Waters winning that one. I have Brady Brown beating Bliss and then beating Tanner Rock to make it to the semifinals, and I have Caleb Close beating Martucci and then Jared Roan to make the semifinals with Caleb Close making it to the finals with Waters winning.
Same semis and finals for me as well. 215 pounds. The top seed is the Northeast champ, Austin Johnson from Muncie. The number 2 is the Southeast champ, Lucas Lawler from Bishop McDevitt. The 3 seed is the Southwest champ, Braden Welsh from Fort Cherry. And the 4th is the Northwest champ, Juso Young from Port Allegheny.
Yeah, Juso Young and Colton Griffin from Brookville they've been battling back and forth, and Juso Young won this one 8-1. The big regional matchup was Lucas Lawler and Jason Singer. This was the at least second time this year they've wrestled, and Lawler was able to win again here. And I'll tell you what, if you remember the matchup between Lawler and Johnson at the Powerade tournament, look, Lawler, he was right there. He didn't shy away. He didn't back down at all in that matchup with Austin Johnson. And there's a reason why he's considered, a finalist favorite here. But what about Braden Welsh, man? Like, he just keeps on winning at 215. What do you make of him and how far can he take this damn thing?
Yeah, I mean, he wrestled 189 all season, goes up to 215, and I think in part because Brady Brown, from Derry was there at that weight class, and it's like, hey, do I really want to battle this guy, 3 weeks in a row? So makes the move, and he was really, has been dominant throughout the postseason. He did have a close one in the finals with Landon Erdman of Huntington. He beats him 4-2, but outside of that, he did have one other decision over Tyler Lava of Moshannon Valley in the quarters, 11-4. But Braden Welsh has been dominant throughout the postseason, and where he's at in the bracket. The fact that Jason Singer is up in the top half with Austin Johnson, um, you know, and obviously he's separate from Lawler until the semis. I like Welsh to make the semifinal. It's going to be tough, against in that matchup against Lucas Lawler, especially since he's not a true 215 pounder.
Mhm.
For Welsh to win that match, in my opinion. But I think getting to the semis, I don't see that being an issue for Welsh.
I mean, I wouldn't look past Sawyer Robinson. I'll tell you that from Towanda, state seventh last year. A guy who he's just tall, he's lanky, and he can do some crazy stuff. He actually beat Kendall Hoare of Du Bois at the Ultimate Warrior tournament when Kendall was still up at 215. So I think that shows you how good he is and how much potential he has. So I think that is probably one of the better quarterfinal matchups if that happens. Welsh and Robinson. Welsh is somebody who is a two-time state medalist, right? Looking for his third state medal. I like the Colton Griffin and Landon Tucker first round matchup too. Senior versus a freshman. Landon Tucker, one of our top incoming freshmen. I really like where Lucas Lawler is. I think Lucas Lawler makes it to the semifinals. I do have Welsh making it to the semifinals as well, but I think Sawyer Robinson has all the tools and capabilities to prove me wrong in that weight class. Juso Young is kind of in a interesting spot because I think he does make it to the quarterfinals, but Jason Singer I think makes it to the semifinals, and Austin Johnson I have him beating Landon Erdman. Josh Ryan, I don't want to look past him because he's a guy who he's a gunslinger. I like the way he wrestles, but yeah, I think I think Lawler has separated himself from Jason Singer a little bit. So I think Lawler kind of is definitely the clear number two here. The question for me is, can he go with Austin Johnson? And I think the answer is yes, but I just think Austin Johnson has a little bit too much. I think that's a mountain a little bit too high to climb. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy for thinking that, but guess we'll see.
Yeah, no, I think there's slight separation, right? I think that
Slight.
they're all going to be really good matches. I think Johnson is the one, the champ, and I have Lawler in the final with him. But I think there's just a slight difference between them. And then you want to say, okay, maybe a slight difference between Lawler and the next guy down, Jason Singer, who I think is going to be in the semi against Johnson. And then maybe a slight difference between Singer and then Braden Welsh, who I think will be in the semifinal, and then another slight difference between Welsh and Sawyer Robinson. So I mean, I think those five in particular to me. I mean, there's a lot of great wrestlers in this weight, but I think those five to me, like they're all really competitive and they're going to be really great to watch wrestle each other. But I have like slight advantage in those individual matchups, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does. It does make sense. And yeah, I would just push back and say Robinson and Welsh are probably more on the same level than but that's only because Welsh is coming up a weight class.
Yeah, correct.
Right. That's my only concern. Like Landon Erdman's a big body. Tyler Lobb's a big body. Right. Tyler Lobb has spent time at heavyweight. So like, and you see what they were able to do. They were able to slow it down a little bit. Right. I just was so impressed with Sawyer Robinson against Kendall Hoare that that's a lasting memory. Is that him coming back and beating him. And we obviously know how good Kendall Hoare is, but yeah, I don't know. The matchup and the size difference, I think, is what is just a little bit concerning. But yeah, I would agree with you there on all points about the tiers and the slight separations.
285 pounds, the Southwest champ Rowan Holmes of Somerset is the number one. The Southeast champ Mark Effendian of Faith Christian, number two. Number three is the Northwest champ Gavin Hanna of Brookville. And the four is the Northeast champ Mason Higley of Towanda.
Yeah, Rowan Holmes is he's obviously a very talented wrestler. We've seen him on numerous occasions throughout his career. He's finished fourth and third in the state, so we know how good he is. He was a state qualifier his freshman year. But Mark Effendian is just, I mean, he's one of the best in the nation. Him and Dean Bechtold from Owen J. Roberts, who's the number one guy in AAA, those guys are pretty close, and they're both ranked, I believe, top 10 in the nation, depending on what publication you're looking at. So I feel like Rowan Holmes has an uphill battle, but he's certainly able to do it, right? Rowan Holmes is somebody that has been very, very consistent all year. He wrestled Shep Turk from TJ in the Midwinter Mayhem finals. He was down and ended up getting a fall there, but he's going to have a tough road because he's going to likely draw Carson Neely in that quarterfinal matchup. And Carson Neely is somebody that came into this ranked 5 in the state. He was state 5th last year, 4th the year prior. Carson Neely is a very formidable opponent there. Gavin Hanna is right there in the mix too. The question I have is Colin White is how good can he be? Can he push Gavin Hanna? That's the question. Is I think he wins his first match, but I question. And Gavin Hanna's a smaller heavyweight too, and Colin White, I don't think he's a full size heavyweight. So I think that's a really good matchup between those two.
Yeah, and White's had a great season. Medaling at Powerade, and a guy that he dropped that opening match in the Tri County. He got surprised, but then battled all the way back through the consolations, pinning everybody. To finish third, and has just really been at another level, right? As far as the rest of the WPIL goes, for the matchups he's had here in AA. And to me, I think he's wrestling really well, and I'm excited to see that match between White and Hanna. I think that's going to be a really good one, and I even think the other matchups, John Duran of Fort LaBeouf taking on Mason Higley of Towanda potentially in a quarterfinal. And what's Caleb Rodriguez of Bishop McCourt going to do? Is he able to?
I mean, that's Rowan Holmes' only loss on the season is to Caleb Rodriguez. That's his only blemish is Caleb Rodriguez. So now Caleb Rodriguez was 4th in the region, but he's obviously very capable. How about Mason Higley? I mean, he's the only undefeated wrestler here in this weight class, right? And Higley is a small heavyweight. He's wrestled at 215 this year, but he's undefeated, right? And he's no slouch. He's a 2-time state qualifier. I really like Mason Higley. You're looking at where he's at in the bracket. I think he's in a good spot to make the semifinals, but I also think, like a Caleb Rodriguez, if he's the one that beats freshman Blake Gutshaw from Big Spring, I think that's a tough matchup. I think he's favored. I think the winner of Higley and either Rodriguez or Gutshaw, I think they're the favorite to beat either Tyler or Duran. Carson Neely, it just sucks that he feeds right into Rowan Holmes, because I think he could probably be in the semifinals if he was on another on that other quadrant down there. Ultimately, I think Effendian's the clear favorite, just based off his performance throughout the year. I can't see Rowan Holmes finding a way to out wrestle who is a true heavyweight in Mark Effendian. I mean, he wrestles like a true heavyweight. He's big. He uses his weight. He knows how to slow matches down. Rowan Holmes is like a Greek god. He's like sculpted. But I just don't know if he's going to have enough to beat Mark Effendian, just because of the body size difference and just the style matchup, right? But we'll see. What do you got
I like
for?
I like Effendian to win it against Rowan Holmes in the final. I'm gonna go with Colin White to make it to the semi. I think that match against Hannah is gonna be great. I really do, but I'm gonna roll with Colin White there. I have a tough time picking that other quadrant, to be honest with you, Jeff. I mean, Caleb Rodriguez only lost 2-1 to Rowan Holmes in the semifinal of the regional, and he drops to 4th, giving up a takedown with I think 3 or 4 seconds left against Jonah McCoy at Westmont Hilltop. Obviously, Rodriguez should try to distance himself a bit more, but we're talking heavyweights, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's how it goes. 1-1 and a late takedown usually wins it. So, um, but it sets himself up, right? Because now McCoy, he's down in the bottom half. He's gonna, feed right into the potential state champ. So that's a tough one for him. So Rodriguez at least has a shot to make the semis, but I'm gonna go with Higley. He's undefeated on the season to make it to the semi, but it would not surprise me if it's Rodriguez, Higley, Duran making it in that semi.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That's probably the toughest one to pick. Rowan Holmes, Carson Neely should be a really good match. As I mentioned, they were at different weights last year, but Carson Neely was fifth in the state and Rowan Holmes was third. I like Rowan Holmes to beat Carson Neely. I have John Duran beating Caleb Tyler. I have Mason Higley beating Rodriguez and Higley beating Duran to make the semifinals, with Rowan Holmes winning that one. And then I have, instead of White, I have Hannah. I have Hannah beating White. I have Effendian beating Hannah to make the state finals, and Effendian winning it. So that's how she goes.
Yeah. That's a couple of long days here for us, Jeff, but we got through
We got
AAA and
four
AA.
more long days, because tomorrow's a long day traveling, and 3 days inside the Giant Center on a wooden chair. I may bring like a butt pad to sit on. I might bring like,
You might want
like
to.
one of those stadium seats to sit on. Just because it's so damn uncomfortable. And they don't give us padded chairs, right? I forget what they give us downstairs, but I don't think they're comfortable.
I don't think there's any comforts, honestly, especially for 3 long days. And
What if
because
they're
of the
going to
fact
feed
that you
us?
have,
I feel like, we're getting fish sandwiches on Friday.
and you only get fed once a day, right? So you
Yeah.
start at
So,
what, like,
people think they're like, oh, you must love it. You go to Hershey. I'm like, no, it sucks. Like, we're there for AA, AAA girls all day, sun up to sundown. I don't see the sun, right? You're
nope,
just
you don't.
inside the stadium, the Giant Center, all day. I lose track of by Saturday. I really lose track of time. Like, I don't understand what day or time it is. And then throw on top of that daylight savings on Saturday. I'm going to be all upped on Sunday. So maybe it's a good
Well,
thing
yeah,
you're
I
not
mean,
riding out with me.
it always falls on the same time every year, right? The daylight savings, but that Friday is just such a brutal day. I mean, you're talking wrestling starts at what, 8 a.m. Probably is not done till 11 o'clock at night,
I
and there's no
hate the
like.
current
It's not like
setup.
there's a. It's not like there's breaks either. I mean, you're talking. It's pretty much straight through. You might have maybe 2 hours of breaks total between 8 a.m. and 11 p.m. And then, yeah, to your point, you get fed one time. So, yeah, it's a joy.
I hate I hate the new setup with I mean, from a media standpoint, it's so damn hard to cover. That Friday semifinals with 2 mats for every semifinal is just absolutely brutal. I mean, Friday's fun because there's so many people in the stands, but it's just a long ass day. And it's impossible to cover. You need 3 people to cover it. Like, I need 3 photographers, I need 3 people to do interviews, 3 people to do results. Like, it sucks.
Well, stick with us as much as we're complaining, because PA Power is going to have all the updates and a lot of great action and a lot of good stuff coming out to continue to preview the state tournament that starts on Thursday. But I want to thank all of everyone who joined the Power Hour here for the last 2 days. It's been a lot of fun. But for Jeff Upson, I'm Greg Warnock. We appreciate you listening in and watching in.